You wake up in darkness, and the only sound you hear is the whisper of a voice that promises power, but never peace. You are a Sith Lord, shackled to fear, molded by cruelty, and chained to a master who feeds on your suffering. You thought power would free you. Instead, it enslaved you. So sit back, grab a snack, and let your imagination drift across the stars. And remember, if you enjoy this journey, subscribe, because the story of the galaxy is far from over. You wake up in darkness, not the kind that comes from the simple absence of light, but the kind that presses down on you, seeping into your lungs like smoke, coating your tongue with the taste of ash and cold iron. It is the darkness of a place where even sound dares not linger, where silence is not peaceful but oppressive, as if the void itself is holding its breath, waiting for something to shatter the stillness. And that stillness is you. You are the silence, you are the shadow, and you are the prisoner of a master whose very presence devours the air around you. The first thing you feel is weight, not on your body but on your spirit, the sense that someone is always there, standing behind you, unseen but undeniable, like a phantom hand resting on the back of your neck. That hand is Darth Sidious, and it is always there. His presence is suffocating. It doesn't matter whether he is in the room, across the galaxy, or whispering in the recesses of your mind. His grip never loosens. You live your life in the cold echo of his shadow, where the promise of freedom has been stripped away, and every breath feels like a debt you can never repay. You once believed becoming a Sith meant triumph. You imagined conquest, worlds trembling beneath your boots, power so vast that no chain could hold you. But the reality is something else entirely. Apprenticeship under Sidious is not glory, it is survival. And survival is not victory, it is clawing day after day against a current designed to drown you, while the one who promised you everything watches with amusement, waiting for the moment you slip beneath the tide. His eyes are the worst, yellow, unblinking, like molten suns trapped behind the face of a withered corpse. When he looks at you, it isn't admiration you see, it isn't trust, it is hunger, a predator watching its prey struggle, savoring the fear, savoring the hatred, savoring. The futility of your resistance. You can feel it each time his gaze cuts through you. He does not see a partner. He does not see a successor. He sees a tool, sharpened for his hand alone, and destined to be discarded the moment it dulls. You try not to let him know you're afraid, but the Force betrays you. It always does. It carries every tremor in your pulse, every stutter in your breath, every flicker of doubt that haunts you in the silence between his commands. And he feeds on it. That is what the dark side is. Hunger. A hunger that never ends, a hunger that grows sharper the more it is fed. And Sidious is the embodiment of that hunger. He is not merely a master of the dark side, he is its living face. You feel it every time he speaks, his voice slithering into your ears, smooth and venomous, like the brush of a serpent against bare skin. Power, he tells you, is the only truth. His words echo inside you, not because you believe them, but because he makes them feel inevitable. He does not ask you to agree, he makes you live it. Every trial he sets before you is a reminder that compassion is weakness, that mercy is betrayal, that loyalty is only measured in how willing you are to destroy yourself for his will. And so you learn to obey, not because you want to, but because disobedience is death. The first time you saw him unleash his power, you felt your soul recoil. Lightning danced from his fingertips, arcs of raw hatred made flesh, lashing into the air with a sound like screaming metal. The air burned with ozone, and the scent of charred stone clung to your skin long after the room had gone still. You realized then that what he commanded was not power in the way you once dreamed. It was cruelty, pure, unrelenting cruelty. And you understood with a clarity that chilled your bones that this cruelty was the very essence of his rule. Yet he rewards you in his way. He feeds you just enough secrets to keep you tethered, a forbidden technique here, a glimpse of hidden knowledge there. Each one feels like a gift, but you know better. They are not gifts, they are hooks. Each piece of knowledge binds you tighter to him. Each ritual of the dark side pulls you deeper into his design. You drink from his well, but the water only makes you thirstier. And that is by design. He ensures you are never satisfied, never complete, never free of his grasp. When you sleep, his voice lingers in your dreams. You hear it, soft and insidious, weaving through the labyrinth of your mind. Sometimes it comes as a whisper, gentle as a father's guidance. Other times it lashes like a whip, reminding you that failure is unforgivable. And every time you wake drenched in sweat, with the taste of fear still burning your tongue, and the knowledge that he will never truly leave you, not even here, especially not here. There are moments, rare, fleeting moments, when you dare to imagine what life would be without him. You remember who you were before the dark side consumed you, before the chains of his will bound your every step. You remember laughter, sunlight, the sound of voices that weren't poisoned by manipulation, but the memory fades quickly, like smoke carried away on a cold wind, because in the end, you know the truth. Those moments are gone, erased by your choice to kneel before him. You gave your life to the Sith, and in return you became something less than a man. You became a shadow. Still, there is a part of you that resists, a part that whispers, in the darkest corners of your heart, that one day you could rise against him. One day you could break his grip. You cling to that thought like a drowning man clings to driftwood, but deep down you know what happens to those who try. You've seen it. Apprentices before you, bold enough to challenge him, all fell the same way, broken, screaming, reduced to ash in the face of his power. Their ambition became their undoing, and if you dare to try, your fate will be no different. The galaxy sees him as an emperor, as a ruler cloaked in robes of dignity and authority, but you know the truth. You have seen the monster beneath the mask. The truth is a gnarled figure, his face twisted by decades of hatred, his body corroded by the very power he wields. He is rot-made flesh, and yet that rot is eternal. His power does not fade. It grows, and as it grows, so too does your fear, because if he can endure while the galaxy withers, what chance do you ever truly have of escaping his shadow? You walk beside him through cold chambers, your steps echoing in marble halls that stretch like tombs. Every word he speaks drips with venom, and every pause carries the weight of judgment. You never know when his hand will strike, when his wrath will lash out. Living under Sidious is living on the edge of a blade, every moment a gamble where one misstep means obliteration. And yet you remain, because to leave is impossible, and to stay is worse. So you tell yourself the same lie, day after day, that this suffering will lead to greatness, that one day you will inherit what he has built. But the lie is thin, and the truth is thicker. The truth is that you are not his heir. You are his shield, his weapon, his slave, and when he is finished with you, there will be nothing left but dust. You thought becoming a Sith meant freedom, but now you understand. Apprenticeship under Sidious is a prison without walls, a chain without locks. You are not free. You are bound by fear, bound by hunger, bound by the hand that never loosens from your throat. And still, you wait. You wait for the moment when that hand will tighten. You wait for the day when his shadow will finally consume you completely. Because deep down, you know it is coming. The question is not if, the question is when. And as you close your eyes in the silence of his throne room, the whisper of his laughter curls through the air like smoke, reminding you of the bitter truth. The shadow's hand never lets go. And in the distance, beyond the silence, a new presence stirs, one that will test the very limits of your survival. It begins with a whisper. Not a sound carried through air, but something deeper, a vibration that coils through the marrow of your bones. At first you mistake it for thought, a fleeting fragment of your own mind. But you know better. The words do not belong to you. They never did. They slide in like smoke, curling around every doubt you've ever had, every fear you've ever buried, until the voice feels less like an intruder and more like a part of you. Soft, persuasive, suffocating. It is Darth Sidious. It is always Darth Sidious. His presence doesn't knock when it enters your mind. It pries. It burrows in, carving out space where your thoughts used to live. You try to remember what silence feels like, what it's like to think and hear only your own inner voice. But silence is gone. Your mind is not your own. Each thought feels intercepted before it's even formed, as though he's already there, waiting in the darkness, ready to twist it, ready to remind you of what he demands. The first time you felt him inside your head, you recoiled in horror. It was during training, your hands trembling around the hilt of your lightsaber, the red blade humming in the cold chamber. You thought you had mastered focus. You thought the Force bent to your will. But then came the voice, smooth, slithering, impossible to block. Strike without hesitation. Let hatred guide your blade. The words were not spoken aloud, but they filled your skull with such intensity that it drowned out the sound of your own heartbeat. You stumbled, disoriented, and in that hesitation, the training droid's blade grazed your arm. You felt the searing burn, smelled your own flesh singe, and above the pain came a ripple of laughter, not from the droid, but from him, from Sidious, from the whisper lodged like a thorn in your mind. And since then, the whispers have never left you. They come when you are awake, when you are alone, when you dare to believe you can think freely. They come when you dream, turning rest into an invasion, filling your sleep with visions of fire, betrayal, and power so vast it swallows stars. Sometimes they urge you forward, promising greatness if only you obey. Other times, they coil around your doubts, hissing of failure, reminding you of the fragility of your existence. And always, always, they return to the same refrain, loyalty and fear, woven together into the same unbreakable chain. You begin to lose track of where you end and he begins. A thought forms in your mind. Strike now, claim victory, take what is yours. But is it truly your thought? Or is it another whisper, buried so deep within you that you cannot tell the difference anymore? You wonder, in the quiet hours, if you've ever had an original thought since kneeling before him. The truth claws at you, uncomfortable and undeniable. You haven't. Not really. Not since Sidious took you in. The worst part is not the command. The worst part is the intimacy. His voice inside your mind is not always harsh. Sometimes it is gentle, almost soothing, the way a parent might comfort a frightened child. Yes, good. You are learning. You are strong, stronger than the Jedi ever were. In those moments, you feel a flicker of pride, a warmth that tempts you to lean into the illusion of his approval. But even that is a prison, because the warmth comes only when you bend to him, only when you surrender to the mold he carves. Every kindness is a leash, every compliment another shackle. You remember standing before him once, your body battered after a duel meant to test your endurance. You could barely stand, sweat dripping from your brow, your lungs on fire. And yet, through the haze of pain, you heard it. Rise, my apprentice. The words filled you with strength, with purpose, as if the sound alone carried the power to lift your broken body. For a fleeting second, you believed he cared. You believed you mattered. But then came the smirk, that cruel, knowing curl of his lips, and the realization struck you like a blade. It wasn't strength he gave you, it was dependency. You are not his equal. You are not even his heir. You are his instrument, and instruments do not play themselves. The whispers teach you to see enemies where there are none. They nudge you to mistrust allies, to look over your shoulder even in empty halls. A servant bows to you in the corridor, and Sidious's voice slithers in. He pities you. He doubts you. He waits for you to fail. A fellow apprentice fights beside you in the simulators, and the whisper coils tighter. Strike him now. End him before he ends you. You start to believe it. You start to see betrayal in every glance, treachery in every smile, until the paranoia takes root, until you are no longer sure whether you are acting out of instinct or manipulation. And that's the brilliance of his cruelty. He doesn't just control your body, he controls your mind. You learn not to trust your own thoughts because they could be his. You learn not to trust your instincts because they might be engineered. You learn not to trust yourself at all. And in that spiral of doubt, in that erosion of your very identity, he thrives. But there are moments when you resist. Fleeting, fragile moments when you try to shut him out. You sit in meditation, reaching for the dark side on your own, searching for a thread of thought that belongs only to you. You cling to it, desperate, like a man clinging to a rope above an abyss. And just when you begin to believe you've found it, the rope unravels. His voice returns, colder this time, crueler, as if mocking your attempt at freedom. You cannot hide from me. And he's right. You can't. Because the truth is, you invited him in. You opened the door the moment you pledged yourself. You thought you could control it, thought you could wield the dark side without letting it consume you. But the dark side doesn't bargain. It doesn't compromise. It takes. And through Sidious, it has taken everything. Your thoughts, your trust, your very sense of self. There's a reason he prefers whispers over shouts. Shouts can be resisted. Shouts awaken defiance. But whispers? Whispers seep in unnoticed. Whispers become your inner monologue. Whispers make you forget where they end and you begin. And by the time you realize you've been rewritten, it's already too late. Still you try. You tell yourself you're stronger than the others, stronger than those who came before you and fell under his thrall. You tell yourself you will not break, but then the whispers remind you of their names. Maul, Tyrannus, Vader, each one believed themselves strong enough. Each one ended in ruin. And now it is your turn. You pace the cold halls of his citadel, the shadows stretching long across the polished floor. The scent of burning incense clings to the air, heavy and acrid. You hear footsteps echo in the distance, though you know you are alone. And then, his voice again. Not from the walls, not from the air, from within. You will serve. You will obey. You will never escape me. You stop walking. Your hands tremble. You want to scream, to fight, to cast his voice out of your head. But your throat closes, and instead of defiance, what escapes your lips is silence. Because even your scream no longer belongs to you. Jobdu. And that is when the true terror sinks in. It's not the pain. It's not the scars. It's not the endless trials. It's the loss of self. The realization that piece by piece, thought by thought, you are dissolving. Until nothing remains but the whisper. Until you are no longer you. You are only him. You close your eyes, trying to anchor yourself to something, anything, that still belongs to you. A memory, a face, a name. But they slip away like water through your fingers. And when you open your eyes again, the whisper is waiting, soft as a lover, cruel as death. Good, very good. You are learning to let go of yourself. And in that moment, you realize the truth you've been avoiding. You are not losing the battle for your mind. You have already lost. The whisper is not just in your head. It is becoming your head. And somewhere, in the deepest shadows of the citadel, Darth Sidious smiles, because he knows what you are only beginning to understand. The voice you hear in the dark will never stop. And in the silence after his whisper fades, you hear something else. A second voice, faint, unfamiliar, rising from the depths of the Force. A new presence, a rival thought, a promise of conflict still to come. It begins with a promise that sounds like freedom, but feels like a cage. You remember the way Sidious first spoke of it, his voice like velvet wrapped around a dagger. You are free now, free of the Jedi, free of their hypocrisy. With me, you will make your own path. You wanted to believe him. You wanted to believe that all the chains had been broken, that at last you would decide your own fate. But the truth revealed itself slowly, like a crack spreading across glass. And with every choice you thought you made, you began to realize none of them were yours. Every decision begins with his shadow. You reach for your lightsaber, and you wonder if the strike is yours or his command. You choose a target on the battlefield, but you know his hand guided you there before you ever raised your weapon. He lets you pick between two paths, but both lead to the same conclusion, his victory. That is the trick. He never denies you the illusion of choice. He lets you taste it, lets you feel the texture of freedom on your tongue. But when you swallow, you find only ash. The chambers where he tests you are designed for it. You remember stepping into one of them, the air thick with incense, the floor a cold circle of stone etched with runes. Before you stood two doors, identical save for the carvings above them, one marked with fire, the other with water. His voice slithered into your skull. Choose, my apprentice, the path of destruction or the path of patience. You felt the weight of the decision press against your chest, as though the entire galaxy balanced on your choice. You stepped toward fire, thinking it was defiance, thinking it was your will. But when the door opened, you found the lesson already prepared, the trial already written, the outcome already his. And that is the cruelty. Every path is his design. Every move you make lies on a board he has already set. A game whose ending he wrote long before you arrived. You are not the player. You are the piece. The victories feel the most hollow. You remember striking down an enemy commander, your blade flashing in crimson arcs, the smell of burning ozone filling your lungs. The soldiers around you cheered, the battle shifting in your favor. You told yourself it was your strength that turned the tide, but later, in the stillness of his throne room, Sidious leaned forward, his smile thin and cutting. Yes, you did well, exactly as I knew you would. The praise curdled inside you, because it wasn't yours, was it? The moment, the triumph, it had been placed there, like bait in a trap. Even your greatest victories were nothing more than his experiments. And the failures? Those are worse, because when you stumble, when you falter, the voice that slides into your mind does not scold. It reminds, you chose this path. You failed because you are weak. You failed because you ignored my wisdom. And you begin to wonder, did you truly fail? Or did he place you in a no-win game just to watch you break? That's when the doubt begins to corrode you. You start to question everything, every impulse, every instinct. You look at your hands, scarred and trembling, and you wonder if they've ever done anything that wasn't his will. And the worst part, the part that gnaws at you in the dark, is that maybe you don't want them to, because the illusion is comforting in its own way. To pretend the choices are yours, to pretend that you are in control, even when you know you aren't. That is the drug Sidious feeds you. That is the chain he wraps around your neck. You think of the Jedi sometimes, not with fondness, but with bitterness. They spoke of choice as well. They called it destiny, the will of the Force. And you fled from that, believing the Sith offered something purer, freedom from fate. But here, under Sidious, you see the cruel irony. The Jedi chained you with dogma. Sidious chains you with deception. Neither ever truly gave you freedom, neither ever truly let you choose, and that's why it sucked to be a Sith apprentice. You traded one cage for another, only to discover the bars here are invisible, and therefore unbreakable. The air in his chambers is always heavy, as if even the oxygen bends to his will. You stand before him, the scent of damp stone mixing with the faint electric tang of lightning still lingering from his last display of power. He speaks of opportunity, of paths only you can take, but you know the truth now. His words are not maps, they are traps. And every time you step forward, you do so with the knowledge that he already knows where you will land. You begin to test it. Small rebellions, choices made in defiance. You turn left instead of right. You hold back when he commands aggression. You spare an enemy when he whispers kill. And for a moment, you feel a spark of yourself return. But then comes the revelation, because even those acts of defiance are woven into his plan. Even your rebellion is another thread in his web. He smiles when you resist, as if resistance was part of the script. And you realize, there is no path outside of him. That's the nightmare you can't escape. To live in a world where every thought feels like it belongs to someone else. To wake each day and question whether the smallest decision, what you eat, when you sleep, who you spare, was ever yours. And when you finally admit the truth, when you finally see the cage for what it is, the despair is overwhelming. Because choice was Tuz. He one thing you believed in. Choice was the reason you turned to the Sith in the first place. And now it too is gone. And so, you cling to the scraps. You tell yourself that one day, one choice will be yours. One day you will find a path he did not predict. One day you will slip the noose. But deep down you know that hope is fragile, brittle as glass, and Sidious has already cracked it, because when you close your eyes, you hear him again, that whisper, that certainty. You believe you are free, but freedom is the greatest illusion of all. The words echo through you, heavy as chains, and for the first time you wonder if you've already lost not just your freedom, but your soul. And as you stand in the cold silence of his throne room, with the darkness pressing closer, you hear the faint sound of footsteps approaching. Another figure enters the chamber, cloaked, silent, their presence heavy in the Force. Sidious's smile widens, his eyes glowing like embers. You are not the only one who seeks choice, my apprentice. There are others. The shadows shift, the air thickens, and you realize the game is about to change. Blood has a taste, metallic, sharp, like iron scraped against stone. You taste it now, warm on your tongue, as it trickles from the corner of your mouth. The chamber around you is silent except for the hum of your lightsaber. Your breath ragged, your knees unsteady. Pain surges through your body like fire coursing through broken veins, but pain is the only constant you've come to trust. Pain is the language Sidious has taught you, the scripture carved into your flesh, the trial that defines every day you serve him. You once thought training was a path to mastery. Now you understand. Training under Sidious is a ritual of torment. The air is thick in these chambers, heavy with the scent of scorched stone, sweat, and old blood. The walls are blackened with the marks of countless duels before yours. You wonder how many apprentices have bled here, how many have screamed in the same agony you feel now, how many corpses these stones have witnessed before being discarded into the void. The chamber feels alive with their ghosts. Every scar etched into the floor whispers of failure. Every faint shadow in the corners reminds you of death, and in the center of it all stands Sidious, unmoving, unyielding, his figure cloaked in black, eyes glowing like embers in the dark. He doesn't need to speak. His silence is enough. You feel it pressing on you, suffocating you, forcing you to raise your blade even when your arms tremble from exhaustion. When he does finally speak, his voice slithers across your skin, cutting colder than the edge of any saber. Again. And so, you obey. You lunge forward, the crimson blade screaming as it slices through the air. He meets it with casual ease, his movements effortless, each parry designed not to end the fight but to prolong it. He is not training you to win, he is training you to endure, to suffer, to be broken and remade again and again until nothing remains but his design. Every strike you land is absorbed. Every desperate swing is mocked by the quiet strength of his counters. You are not his opponent. You are his canvas, and pain is the brush he wields. The first wound comes quickly, a flick of his wrist that slices across your shoulder. You feel flesh burn, nerves scream, the scent of charred fabric filling the air. You stumble, clutching the wound, but his voice cuts through your pain. Do not yield. Yielding is death. You grit your teeth, forcing yourself upright, blood dripping down your arm in hot rivulets. The chamber floor is slick with sweat and crimson, and every step you take feels like walking on the edge of a blade. He strikes again, and this time you block, but the force of the blow rattles your bones. Sparks shower into the air, the hiss of clashing sabers ringing in your ears. Your muscles scream, your lungs burn, your vision blurs with sweat, but still you fight, because that's the lesson. You fight not for victory but to survive the moment, and survival itself becomes your hollow triumph. Pain becomes your teacher. The scars that mark your body become scripture, each one telling the story of failure and persistence. A cut across your ribs teaches you to guard your flank. A burn across your thigh reminds you never to overextend. A scar on your jaw forces you to keep your guard higher. You are carved piece by piece, whittled down until there is nothing left of the person you once were. Sidious is not training you to fight. He is unmaking you. And yet, in the agony, you feel something else. A fire. A raw, burning energy that grows with each wound, each scar, each drop of blood. Hatred. The dark side feeds on it, nurtures it, whispers to you as you scream in pain. Yes, use it. Hate him. Hate yourself. Hate everything. The hatred dulls the pain. The hatred sharpens your blade, and for fleeting moments you believe you are rising, that you are mastering the torment. But the truth is more cruel. You are not mastering the pain. The pain is mastering you. There is no kindness in his eyes, no satisfaction in your progress, only hunger. He watches as you stumble and rise again, as you bleed and roar against him, and you realize this is not training for him. This is entertainment. Your suffering is his delight. Your torment is his victory. And still, you fight on, because to stop is to die, and to die is to mean nothing. The chamber grows colder with each strike, as though the dark side itself leaches the warmth from the air. Your breath forms clouds, mingling with the steam of your sweat. The metallic tang of blood fills your nose, and the taste coats your tongue until you can no longer tell if you are swallowing spit or iron. You are drenched in it, inside and out, and the realization crashes over you like ice. You are drowning in the trial, and he is the hand that holds you under. But in the heart of suffering, something inside you hardens. You feel the hatred surge stronger, hotter, threatening to consume you. You cling to it because it is the only thing that feels like yours. Hatred becomes your anchor, your weapon, your fuel, and as you lash out with a final, desperate strike, you catch a flicker in his eyes, not fear, not surprise, but approval. Brief, fleeting, and gone as quickly as it appeared. Yet even that fleeting glance feels like victory, because if pain is your language, then approval is the cruel scripture you are forced to read. When the duel finally ends, you collapse to your knees, your body a tapestry of wounds. Your saber clatters to the ground, its hum fading into silence. You expect his wrath, you expect punishment for weakness, but instead his voice cuts through the stillness, soft and insidious. Good, you live, you endure. That is all that matters. And in that moment, you realize the true horror. He does not care if you win. He does not care if you learn. He only cares that you endure the suffering he crafts for you, because the torment itself is the training. And that's why it sucked to be a Sith apprentice under Sidious, because your life was not a path to strength but a ritual of torment. You were not being taught, You were being broken, remade, and broken again until the person you once were no longer existed. As you struggle to rise, blood dripping from your wounds onto the cold stone, he leans closer, his breath foul and heavy with the scent of decay. His words slither into your ear, colder than the steel of a blade. This was only the beginning. There are trials yet that will break more than your body. They will break your soul. And in the silence that follows, you hear the faint sound of a door sliding open. Another figure steps into the chamber, their footsteps echoing across the scarred floor. You raise your head, vision blurred with blood and sweat, and for the first time, you see the outline of another apprentice. Another rival, another shadow waiting to strike. The trial of blood is not over. It has only just begun. You hear the footsteps before you see the face, slow, deliberate, each step echoing against the scarred stone floor of the chamber. The trial has left your body battered, your wounds still raw, but suddenly the pain feels secondary, because what enters now is not another lesson, it is a threat. The silhouette takes shape in the doorway, tall, cloaked, with the faint red glow of a saber casting shadows across the walls. Your heart tightens, your grip instinctively twitching toward the hilt at your side. You realize in an instant what Sidious has done. He is not content with breaking you alone. He has brought another into the room, not as a companion, but as an enemy. The dark side does not allow companionship. It does not allow brotherhood. Sidious teaches you this truth with every whisper, every sneer, every cruel command. You are not meant to trust the figure now walking toward you. You are not meant to see them as an ally. No, this is the lesson, to despise the one beside you, to see them not as flesh and blood, but as an obstacle. Because in the order of the Sith, there is no we, there is only you and the blade at your throat. The figure stops a few paces away, the hood still drawn low, hiding their face. But you don't need to see their expression to know what they are thinking. You feel it radiating off them through the Force. Suspicion, hunger, hatred, the same things you feel now, boiling beneath your own skin. It is a mirror of yourself, and that's what makes it worse. Because if they are your reflection, then you know how this ends. One of you survives, the other does not. Sidious's laughter cuts through the silence, low and venomous. He doesn't need to explain the rules. There are none. There is only the command that lingers in the air, unspoken but undeniable: destroy each other. You lock eyes with the figure as they finally lower their hood. A human, scarred Akros. Press the cheek, with eyes as yellow as your own. Their gaze is sharp, unyielding, filled with the same promise of violence you know you carry. And in that moment you realize you already hate them, not because of who they are, not because of what they've done, but because Sidious wants you to, because in this place, hatred is survival. The first clash comes without warning. Their blade ignites, crimson light flooding the chamber, and yours rises to meet it, the hum of plasma filling the air like thunder. Sparks shower as the blades lock, the smell of ozone stinging your nostrils. The heat singes your skin, sweat dripping down your brow, but you push forward, teeth clenched, your wound screaming with every movement. They press harder, snarling, their face twisted with fury, and you see it, the same desperation that fuels you, the same terror of failure, the same certainty that only one of you will leave this room alive. You strike, they counter, they lunge, you parry. Each movement is faster, sharper, driven not by strategy but by raw instinct. The clash of blades fills the chamber like the roar of a storm. The floor beneath your boots vibrates with every impact, the air alive with heat and rage. It is not just a duel, it is survival, distilled to its purest form. And as you fight, you feel Sidious's gaze upon you, cold and calculating. He is not watching to see who wins, he is watching to see who breaks first. You try to think of strategy, of feints, of counters, but the whispers gnaw at you. Sidious is in your head again, urging you on, feeding the flames of your hatred. Strike deeper, show no mercy. They will betray you the moment you falter. The words sink into you, pushing away every thought of restraint. You swing harder, faster, each strike laced with the hunger to end it. But the figure is just as relentless. They snarl, eyes burning, voice breaking through the clash of sabers. You're nothing but his dog. The words cut deeper than the blade ever could. You feel rage surge through you, sharp and poisonous, because the insult is true. You are his dog, you are his slave, and so are they. That's what makes this fight so unbearable. You are both bound by the same chain, both playing the same role in Sidious's cruel theater. Yet instead of turning against him, you are forced to turn against each other. That is the genius of his cruelty. He doesn't just pit you against enemies. He pits you against the only ones who might have understood your suffering. And in doing so, he ensures you remain alone. The fight grows bloodier. A slash cuts across your arm, the searing heat of plasma carving through flesh, the smell of burning skin filling the air. You scream, your voice echoing off the stone walls, but the pain only fuels you. You lash out with a surge of force energy, the invisible wave slamming into your rival, throwing them against the wall with a crash. Dust and stone rain from the ceiling as they stagger to their feet, coughing, eyes blazing with fury. They spit blood, igniting their saber once more, and you know this won't end until one of you lies broken on the floor. You wonder, for a fleeting moment, what might have been if things were different. If you weren't forced into this endless cycle of rivalry and betrayal, could you have been allies, friends, brothers? The thought lingers only for a second before Sidious's voice hisses in your ear, cold and final. There are no friends, only the strong and the dead. The whisper cuts through you, severing the fragile thread of hope, and with it, the duel intensifies. You meet in the center of the chamber, blades clashing with a sound like screaming metal. Sweat and blood blind your vision, your breath ragged, your body pushed past its limits. But still you fight, because to stop is to die. And death here means more than just failure. It means oblivion. It means becoming another forgotten shadow in Sidious's long line of broken apprentices. The force surges around you, crackling with your fury. You feel it in your veins, in your bones, in the pounding of your heart. You channel it into a final strike, a desperate blow meant to end the fight once and for all. Your rival meets it, the blades locking again, faces inches apart, both of you snarling with effort. And in their eyes, you see yourself reflected, broken, desperate, enslaved. For a heartbeat, everything is still. The chamber is silent, but for the hum of the sabers, the smell of blood and sweat heavy in the air. And in that silence, you feel the weight of the truth. This fight is not about victory. It is about proving to Sidious that you will kill, that you will betray, that you will destroy anyone he places beside you. Because in his world, trust is death. Betrayal is survival. The lock breaks. The blades swing. The duel continues. But somewhere deep inside, you already know the truth. No matter who falls here, you have already lost. Because the real enemy is not the one before you. The real enemy is the one who laughs in the shadows, feeding on your hatred, feeding on your despair. And as you stumble back, your rival charging forward with eyes blazing, you hear Sidious's voice again, softer this time, but sharper than a blade. Good, good. Now show me which of you deserves to live. The chamber erupts in fire and fury once more, and you realize with a hollow certainty, this fight will not end with triumph. It will end with blood. And as you prepare for the next strike, the walls tremble with a distant explosion. Somewhere beyond this chamber, another war begins to unfold, one that will drag you deeper into betrayal. The nightmare Sidious has written for you. They tell you the rule of two is sacred. 2 Sith, no more, no less. A master to embody power and an apprentice to crave it. On the surface, it sounds almost simple, almost balanced, as though the galaxy itself would bow to such symmetry. But when you live inside it, when you wear its chains around your neck, you realize the truth. It is not balance. It is not sacred. It is a noose, a cycle of betrayal, strangling every spark of trust, every whisper of compassion, every chance at freedom. You sit in the dark of Sidious's throne room, the air heavy with the scent of old incense and ozone, the only light spilling from the faint red glow of torches mounted along the black stone walls. You kneel, your body still scarred from the trial of blood, your mind still haunted by the echo of your rival's blade. Sidious leans forward on his throne, his face a mask of shadows and deep, hollow lines. He speaks of the rule of two as though it were scripture, as though it were the foundation upon which the Sith endure. His words slither like chains across your shoulders. The rule is survival. It is the only truth that has preserved us through the ages. Without it, the Sith devoured themselves. You want to believe him, but you feel the contradiction in every breath you take beside him. Because what is survival when you are constantly waiting for the knife in the dark? What is strength when every lesson you learn is meant to prepare you for the moment you must kill the one who taught you? And worse, what is loyalty when it is expected to collapse into betrayal? You see the way his eyes burn when he looks at you, not with pride, but with calculation, always measuring, always weighing. To him, you are not a partner, you are not an heir, you are a threat, and so the rule of two becomes a prison. You cannot love him, for love would be weakness. You cannot trust him, for trust would be suicide. And as you cannot even truly hate him, for hatred is the very fuel he demands you feed upon, and by feeding it, you strengthen the leash he already holds. You remember the first time he explained it to you. You stood in the cold archives, dust rising from ancient holocrons, as he gestured to the broken history of the Sith. Empires rising and falling, masters devouring apprentices, apprentices slaying masters, cycles of endless destruction. He painted it as a cautionary tale. Too many Sith, and we collapse under the weight of our own ambition. Too few, and the galaxy forgets us. Two is perfection. Two is survival. You listened, wide-eyed, believing the words, believing you were chosen to be the exception, the one apprentice destined to rise higher. But now you see the truth. Two is not perfection. Two is suffocation, because two means you are always alone. In the night, when the palace is silent and your chamber lit only by the faint glow of Coruscant's city lights seeping through the window, you lie awake and think of it. The rule does not allow companionship. It does not allow trust. You feel the phantom weight of your rival's blade still at your throat, and you know this is by design. The rule ensures you are surrounded only by enemies, even in your own home. You wonder what it would mean to break it. To imagine a world where there were more than two. A world where the Sith might stand together, not as rivals, but as an order united. For a fleeting second the thought warms you. Perhaps it would mean safety, perhaps it would mean freedom. But then you hear Sidious's laughter in your mind, harsh and cutting. Fool, unity is weakness, unity is death, and the warmth collapses into ash. Because that's the cruelest part of the rule. It doesn't just bind you to Sidious, it binds you to the cycle itself. You know that one day you must kill him, and you know that if you succeed, you will take his place, and someone else will one day kill you. The chain is unbreakable, the noose is eternal, and as long as the Sith exist, the cycle of betrayal will never end. Sometimes you catch him testing you. Subtle prods, quiet traps. A question asked to see how far your ambition stretches, a false weakness shown to tempt you into striking. He watches you closely in those moments, his yellow eyes unblinking, waiting for the twitch of your hand toward your blade. And when you resist, when you bow your head and whisper, "Yes, my master," you feel both relief and dread. Relief that you survived another test, dread that by resisting, you've proven your obedience. And by proving your obedience, you've sunk deeper into the chains of the rule. You tell yourself you will be different. You will not let it consume you. You will not become another link in the endless cycle. But the thought curdles quickly, because deep down you know the truth. When the moment comes, when his back is turned, when you feel the dark side roaring inside you, you will strike. Not because you want to, but because you have to, because the rule of two demands it. And that is what makes it unbearable. The inevitability. The way it twists every interaction into suspicion. When he praises you, you wonder if he is preparing you to take his place, or setting you up for a fall. When he punishes you, you wonder if he is trying to weaken you so you never rise against him. Every word is poisoned. Every glance is a trap. And in that endless paranoia, you feel yourself unraveling. You try to remember what it was like before the rule consumed you, before every bond was severed. You think of faces you once true. Stead, voices that once offered comfort, but those memories are fading now, dissolving into shadows, leaving only Sidious's voice in their place, because the rule of two does not allow you to keep the past. The rule demands you burn it, salt the earth, leave nothing behind but hunger. And that's why it sucked to be a Sith apprentice under Sidious, because even in your moments of ambition, even in your moments of imagined triumph, you knew the truth. You would never truly rise. You would never truly be free. You were bound to him, bound to the cycle, bound to a law that promised power but only delivered chains. Tonight, you feel it more than ever. You kneel in the silence of the throne room, the torchlight flickering against your scarred skin, and you feel his gaze upon you. He leans forward, lips curling into a faint smile, and whispers the words that cut sharper than any blade. "Do not fear your chains, my apprentice. One day they will be yours to wield." And as his laughter echoes through the chamber, you realize with a hollow certainty, the chains of the rule of two are not meant to be broken. They are meant to be passed on. From master to apprentice, from life to death, from shadow to shadow, the cycle will claim you. It always does. And somewhere deep within the palace walls, you hear the faintest stirrings of another presence, a shadow that does not belong to Sidious, a whisper not born of your master's voice. Someone is watching, someone who may yet twist the cycle in ways even Sidious has not foreseen. The galaxy looks endless when you stand at the viewport of a starship, stars scattered like diamonds across a sea of black, planets glowing faintly in the distance, nebulas burning with impossible colors. For a moment, you almost believe in freedom. You almost believe the galaxy is too vast, too wild, too infinite for anyone being to control. But then you remember him, and you realize the truth. Darth Sidious's shadow stretches farther than light itself. His web is everywhere, woven into every corridor of power, every whisper in the dark, every soldier's step on a battlefield. You thought the galaxy was vast enough to escape him. You were wrong. You see it in the Senate chambers. 1,000 voices rising in argument, robes of color swaying as they shout their demands into the air. On the surface, it feels like chaos, like democracy clawing at itself. But you know better. You watch the way their eyes flick toward him, seated on his throne, robes draped like the folds of night itself. You watch the way the loudest voice is quiet when his pale hand lifts. He doesn't need to shout. He doesn't need to argue. His silence speaks louder than their words. Every motion is calculated, every decision already made before their mouths even open. And you realize the Senate is not a place of power. It is a stage, and every senator is just another strand in his web, dancing when he plucks the strings. You see it in the Imperial military, rows upon rows of stormtroopers, their white armor gleaming under sterile lights, their boots pounding in perfect unison. They chant loyalty, devotion, obedience, but not to you, never to you. Their loyalty belongs to him. He bred it into them, burned it into their very identities. Admirals and generals bow their heads not to the Force, not to the Empire, but to the Emperor's will. And you, his apprentice, are left with the bitter truth. You command armies, but none of them are truly yours. They march for him, they kill for him. You are only a voice relaying orders he already whispered into their ears. And then there are the spies. The ones you can never see, but always feel. The servant who lingers a second too long in the doorway. The officer who avoids your gaze when he delivers a report. The shadow in the corridor, gone the instant you turn your head. You know who they serve. Not you. Him. Always him. Sidious does not need to watch you when his eyes are everywhere, when his whispers slip from the mouths of those you least expect. You learn quickly. Trust no one. Not the soldiers, not the servants, not even the shadows of the palace itself. Because all of them, in the end, belong to the web. The paranoia eats at you. You sit in your chambers, the air heavy with recycled oxygen and the faint hum of machinery, and you wonder if even the walls are listening. You wonder if the words you mutter under your breath, the dreams you whisper in your sleep, are already being carried back to him. And the thought gnaws at you, hollowing you out from within. Because even in solitude you are not alone. Even in silence you are being heard. The web does not sleep. The web does not forget. You feel it most during missions. He sends you to distant worlds, to snuff out rebellions, to root out traitors, to crush Jedi who escape the purge. You believe for a moment that you are shaping events, bending the galaxy to your will. But when you arrive, the pieces are already in place. The enemy is where he expected. The traps are already set. You are not the hunter. You are the tool. And when the battle ends, when the bodies lie broken at your feet, you realize he could have sent anyone. A commander, a squadron, a different apprentice. You were not chosen because of your strength. You were chosen because you were expendable. Just another piece on his endless board. The galaxy whispers of rebellion, small sparks hidden in shadows, too weak to matter. But Sidious knows. He always knows. Before the first spark becomes flame, his spies have already smothered it. Before the first voice calls for freedom, his assassins have already silenced it. You wonder how he can know so much, how he can stretch his hand across a galaxy this vast. And then it dawns on you, it isn't the Force alone, it's the web, the net he cast long before you ever knelt before him, a net made of fear, lies, promises, and betrayals. And you are caught in it, tangled as surely as the rebels you hunt. That's why it sucked to be a Sith apprentice under Sidious. Because no matter how far you traveled, no matter how many worlds you burned, you could never escape his reach. His web wrapped around you tighter than chains, until even the illusion of freedom dissolved into dust. You thought you were wielding power, but you were only another strand, vibrating when he pulled. And yet, there's a darker truth beneath it all, a truth you dare not admit even to yourself. The web is not just his, it is you too. Because every time you strike down a rebel, every time you silence a voice, every time you spread his fear, you weave another strand for him. You help build the very cage that traps you. You become both prisoner and jailer, both captive and accomplice. And when you lie awake at night, staring at the ceiling of your chamber, you wonder if this was his plan all along, to make you believe you were trapped by him, when in truth, you were trapping yourself. Sometimes you imagine cutting the strands, severing the web, striking down his spies, turning the army to your will, breaking the Senate into chaos. You imagine standing on the ashes of his empire, free at last, but the fantasy never lasts. Because you know the web is too vast, too complete, too perfect. It stretches across stars, across hearts, across minds. To cut one strand is to find 10 more waiting, and the longer you imagine it, the clearer it becomes. You are not outside the web, you are at its center, and he is the spider that waits in the dark. You see his smile when you kneel before him, thin, knowing, as if he hears every thought you dare to whisper, every fantasy you dare to imagine. You realize then the final cruelty of the web. Even your dreams belong to him, and still you obey. Because what else can you do? To resist is to die. To submit is to endure. And endurance, hollow as it is the only survival you have left. But something is changing. You feel it in the air, in the whispers carried through the Force, a disturbance. A ripple that shakes the strands of the web, making them vibrate in ways even Sidious did not predict. You cannot see it yet, but you know it is coming. Something that does not belong to the web. Something that might finally burn through the strands. As you leave the throne room, the doors hissing shut behind you, you hear Sidious's voice echo in your mind, soft and venomous. Do not mistake yourself for irreplaceable. There are always more pieces to play. You clench your fists, your teeth grinding, hatred burning in your chest, and for the first time you wonder, not if you can escape the web, but if you can turn it against him. And far away, beyond the stars, the faint light of rebellion flickers, small, fragile, but real. A spark that even Sidious's spies have yet to extinguish. A spark that will soon demand your attention. The throne room is built for theater. You see it in the way the black marble rises high above your head, in the way the light filters down through narrow slits in the ceiling, turning the emperor into a silhouette of shadow and fire. You hear it in the echo of boots across polished floors, in the way the silence lingers before he speaks. Every detail is calculated, every stone placed with intent. It is not just a hall of power, it is a stage, and on that stage you play your part. The loyal apprentice, the devoted servant, the mask of respect pressed tightly to your face. You kneel before him, the cold stone biting into your knees, the air thick with incense and the faint ozone crackle of lightning still lingering from his last display of cruelty. Around you, senators and officers stand in rows, their eyes flicking nervously between you and him. They see you kneel, and they assume it is reverence. They assume it is loyalty. None of them realize it is survival. Because in public, respect is not a choice. It is the mask you wear to keep your head attached to your shoulders. You bow your head as he speaks, his voice carrying across the chamber, low and deliberate, each word measured like the tolling of a funeral bell. The empire endures because we are united. We are strong. We are eternal. The crowd nods, some bowing their heads, others clapping weakly, their fear disguised as obedience. You do the same, though your stomach churns, because you know the truth they cannot see. The empire does not endure because of unity. It endures because of fear. And you, his apprentice, are forced to wear pride on your face while you kneel in that fear, as though it were honor. The applause fades, and his gaze falls upon you, those burning yellow eyes, twin suns of decay and hunger pinning you in place. He smiles, thin and cruel, and lifts a hand as though to raise you. You rise slowly, deliberately, your movements controlled, your expression schooled into the image of respect. Inside, you feel the hatred clawing at your ribs, begging to be unleashed, but you bury it deep, locking it behind the mask, because here, before these witnesses, you are not allowed hatred, you are allowed only devotion. That's the mask he forces you to wear, the mask of respect. In private, the mask cracks. You return to his chambers later that night, the senator's gone, the officers dismissed. The silence is heavy now, no audience left to impress. You kneel again, not on polished marble but on scarred stone, the room lit only by the faint glow of candles. He leans forward, his shadow stretching across the floor, and his voice is different now, lower, sharper, dripping with contempt. Do not mistake their awe for yours, my apprentice. You are nothing but my shadow, my blade, my tool. The words cut deeper than any saber wound. You clench your fists, nails digging into your palms, but you keep your head bowed. To look up would be to betray the storm raging behind your mask, and that storm is dangerous, because the dark side feeds on storms, and if he sees too much of it, he will break you before it grows into something that could threaten him. You tell yourself the mask doesn't matter, that one day it will be you who sits upon the throne, you who commands respect instead of feigning it. But deep down, you know the truth. The throne was never meant for you. It was built only for him. And every time you kneel before it, you are reminded that your power is an illusion, that you are not a lord, you are not a ruler, you are just another shadow beneath his. The dichotomy tears at you. In public, you are feared. You see it in the way stormtroopers flinch when you pass, in the way officers bow lower to you than they do to admirals. They whisper your name in fear, in reverence, in awe. And for a moment you feel the pride of it. You tell yourself this is what it means to be Sith, to be powerful, to be feared, to command respect. But then, behind closed doors, Sidious strips it all away. He reminds you that every ounce of fear you command comes from him, that without him, you are nothing, that every shadow you cast is only because of the light he allows. And that's why it sucked to be a Sith apprentice under Sidious, because even when the galaxy bowed to you, you knew the bow was not yours. It was his, and you were only standing in the reflection of his shadow, pretending it belonged to you. There is no pride in private, only reminders. He speaks to you of your failures, even in your victories. You destroy a rebel cell, and he sneers, "They were weak. Do not mistake slaughter for strength." You silence a traitor, and he mocks, "Any fool can kill. True power is subtle. No matter what you accomplish, it is never enough." And so the mask becomes heavier. The pride you wear in public turns hollow, brittle, until it feels like it might shatter with a single word from him. Sometimes, when you stare at your reflection in the mirror, you do not recognize the face behind the mask. The eyes that once held dreams of power now burn only with exhaustion. The scars that once felt like proof of survival now look like chains etched into your skin. You lift the mask of respect before the galaxy, but behind it you are crumbling. And you wonder, late at night, if the mask has already fused to your face, if there is anything left beneath it at all. And yet, the performance continues, because it must. You kneel in public, bow in private, wear pride when you feel only despair, and the galaxy believes the lie. They see you as strong, they see you as a lord of darkness, they see you as untouchable. Only you and Sidious know the truth, that you are nothing but another mask in his collection, another shadow to remind the galaxy of his endless power. The thought eats at you. It coils around your heart, festers in your V's. In Zun, you begin to wonder if perhaps the mask could become real, if perhaps one day you could claim the respect you only pretend to own. But the moment the thought forms, Sidious's voice slides into your mind, cold and mocking. "Careful, my apprentice, masks can crack, and when they do, faces are revealed, faces are weak." You lower your head, hiding the hatred in your eyes, because you know he is right. The mask is fragile, and beneath it, you are weaker than you want to admit. Still, you cling to the fantasy. You tell yourself that one day the mask will not be a mask, that one day the galaxy will bow to you, not to him, that one day the respect will be real. It is a fragile dream, a dangerous one, but it is all you have left. And so you kneel again, before him, before the senators, before the galaxy, the mask of respect firmly in place, even as your soul screams behind it. But tonight, something changes. As you rise from your kneel, Sidious's gaze lingers on you longer than usual. His smile is sharper, more knowing, as though he has seen through the mask you thought so carefully constructed. His voice cuts through the chamber, soft but heavy with menace. Perhaps it is time, my apprentice, to test whether your respect is genuine. The words linger, echoing through the silence. You feel the weight of them settle on your shoulders, colder than any chain, because you know what they mean. A new trial, a new torment, a new chance for him to strip the mask from your face and expose the weakness beneath. And as the senators whisper among themselves, as Sidious's laughter curls through the air like smoke, you feel the dread coil in your chest. The mask has held until now, but how much longer can it survive? And somewhere beyond the throne room, in the depths of the palace, you hear the faint footsteps of someone approaching, a presence you do not recognize, carrying with it the promise that your mask of respect is about to be tested like never before. It begins in the pit of your stomach, a gnawing emptiness, sharp and hollow, like teeth grinding from the inside out. At first you thought it was fear. Fear of failure, fear of Sidious, fear of death. But fear fades. Fear can be mastered, pushed aside, drowned in rage. This is something different, something deeper. It is hunger. And no matter how much power you take, no matter how much blood you spill, no matter how many victories you carve across the galaxy, the hunger never ends. The dark side promised fulfillment. It promised freedom. You thought that if you embraced it, if you gave yourself fully, it would finally silence the ache within you. But the truth is crueler. The dark side doesn't quench hunger, it sharpens it, it feeds on your emptiness, growing stronger with every ounce of power you claim. And instead of filling the void, it widens it. The more you consume, the more it consumes you. You feel it every time you draw on the dark side. Your veins burn with fire, your heart pounds like thunder, your breath tastes of iron and smoke. In those moments you feel alive, more alive than you ever did as a child of light. You feel invincible, untouchable, infinite. But the moment fades, and when the fire burns out, the emptiness returns. Deeper, sharper, hungrier than before. And you realize you are not feeding on the dark side, it is feeding on you. You stand on battlefields littered with the corpses of your enemies, the air thick with the stench of blood and burned flesh, and you wait for the hunger to ease. It never does. You stare into the eyes of men and women as you cut them down, hoping their fear, their screams, their deaths will quiet the gnawing void. But their screams echo only for a moment before the silence rushes back, heavier, emptier, unbearable. And you know then that no slaughter will ever satisfy you. You thought once that victory would be enough, that crushing rebellions, destroying Jedi, proving yourself to Sidious would finally give you the satisfaction you crave. But even when you win, the hunger claws deeper, because victory itself is hollow. Every triumph feels like biting into ash. Every conquest leaves you emptier than before. The dark side does not reward, it only takes. And it takes until there is nothing left but the hunger. Sometimes late at night you wonder if Sidious feels it too. You watch him on his throne, hunched and twisted, his face a mask of rot and cruelty. His eyes burn with that same fire, that same endless appetite. You wonder if he too is devoured by it, if the gnawing inside him has grown so vast that nothing in the galaxy could ever fill it. And then you realize, that is the secret. That is why he smiles when you suffer, because he knows the hunger will destroy you just as it destroys him. And yet, he endures. He survives. He feeds on others, on you, on the galaxy itself. He has made peace with the hunger by becoming it. You are not there yet. You still fight it, still hope you can silence it. You try to bury it beneath pride, beneath ambition, beneath the mask of respect you wear in public. But the hunger always finds you. It creeps in when you are alone, when the palace corridors fall silent, when the galaxy itself seems still. You sit in your chamber, the air stale, the faint hum of Coruscant's endless machinery buzzing in the distance, and the emptiness coils tighter around you. It whispers of more power, more conquest, more blood, and even as you hate it, you obey, because the hunger does not ask. The hunger commands. That's why it sucked to be a Sith apprentice under Sidious, because the dark side was never the gift you thought it was. It was a curse, a hunger that grew with every breath, every strike, every victory. A hunger that consumed you from within, until even your dreams were hollow. You dream of fire often. Worlds burning, skies collapsing, stars snuffed out one by one. You dream of standing at the center of it all, power coursing through your veins, galaxies kneeling before you. In the dream, you think you are finally full, finally whole, but then you wake, and the emptiness is there, heavier than ever, reminding you that the dream was only another lie, another trick of the hunger. You wonder if this is what the Jedi feared, not the Sith, not Sidious, but the hunger itself, the endless appetite that turns men into monsters, that turns victory into addiction, that turns the galaxy into nothing but a meal waiting to be devoured. Maybe that's why they chained themselves with rules, with discipline, with denial. Maybe they weren't hypocrites. Maybe they were afraid of the same thing you feel gnawing inside you now. And for a moment, you almost envy them, because they never let themselves taste it. And once you taste it, you can never turn away. The hunger grows sharper each day. You feel it when you spar, your blade trembling not from weakness, but from craving. You feel it when you walk among stormtroopers, your mind whispering how easily you could break them, how satisfying their fear would be. You feel it when you stand beside Sidious, the thought searing into you like a brand. Kill him, take it all, claim the throne, and maybe then you will finally be satisfied. But the thought is another lie. You know the truth. Even if you killed him, even if you ruled the galaxy, even if you consumed everything, the hunger would remain, because the hunger never ends. And that is the finesse, cruelty. You are chained not just to Sidious, not just to the rule of two, not just to the web of spies and shadows. You are chained to yourself, to the gnawing emptiness that will never let you rest, never let you stop, never let you breathe without craving more. You are your own prison. Tonight, as you sit in the silence of your chamber, you feel it again, stronger than ever, the hunger twisting in your gut, clawing at your chest, whispering that you must act. You close your eyes, fists clenched, teeth grinding, and for a moment you think you can resist. You think you can master it. But then the voice comes, his voice, Sidious, not aloud, but inside you, curling through your mind like smoke. Good, good. Let it grow. Let it devour you. Only then will you be strong enough to serve. The words break you, because they remind you of the truth. The hunger is not an accident. It is the design. It is the lesson Sidious wanted you to learn all along. That strength does not come from quelling the hunger. Strength comes from letting it consume you until you are nothing but appetite wearing flesh. And as the whisper fades, you realize with a hollow certainty you are already becoming it. But then, in the stillness, something shifts. You feel another presence in the Force. Not Sidious, not the hunger, something else. Distant, faint, but real. A flicker of light, a memory of balance. It is fragile, almost imperceptible, but it is enough to make you pause, enough to make you wonder if perhaps, just perhaps, the hunger can be broken. And as you open your eyes, staring into the darkness of your chamber, you hear the faintest sound beyond the door. Footsteps, slow, deliberate. Someone approaches, someone carrying with them a choice that might either feed your hunger or starve it forever. The battlefield feels alive beneath your boots. The earth trembles with the thunder of marching soldiers, the air burns with the acrid bite of blaster fire, and the cries of the dying mix with the roar of engines above. You stand at the center of it all, lightsaber blazing red, your cloak whipping in the storm of chaos. For a fleeting heartbeat, you believe you are a conqueror. Armies move at your command. Entire worlds bend to your will. You think you are the master of this moment, the hand that bends the galaxy to its knees. But then, through the smoke and screams you hear it, the whisper, his whisper, and the illusion shatters. Every order you give has already been written. Every step you take has already been chosen. You tell yourself you are leading armies, but the truth slams into you like a blade to the chest. They are not your armies. They are his. You tell yourself the victory unfolding before you is yours. But it is not. It is his. You are not a general. You are not a conqueror. You are a marionette, and every movement, every strike, every breath is the pull of his strings. You feel it most when the soldiers salute you. Rows of stormtroopers snap to attention, their white armor gleaming, their blasters held to their chests. They chant your title, their voices echoing across the battlefield, and for a moment, pride swells in you, but it dies as quickly as it came, because you know their loyalty is not to you. It never was. Their loyalty belongs to the Emperor, to him. You are only the shadow he casts across the battlefield, only the echo of his will. The realization gnaws at you. You remember once, long ago, believing that leadership meant freedom, that commanding armies meant you had finally escaped the chains of servitude, that by leading men into battle, you had become master of your destiny. But now, watching them march in perfect formation, you see the Tatas. Ruth, they do not march for you. They march because he commands it. They fight because he whispers it. You are not their leader. You are their mask, and masks are meant to be discarded. You strike down enemy after enemy, the hiss of your blade cutting through flesh and steel, the stench of ozone thick in your lungs. Their screams echo in your ears, their eyes wide with terror as they fall before you. And yet, even in the carnage, even in the triumph, the whisper returns, good, very good, as I foresaw. The words coil around your mind, mocking you, because every kill you make, every victory you claim, is already his. You are not carving history. You are repeating a script written long before you arrived, and that's why it sucked to be a Sith apprentice under Sidious. Because even when you believed you were free, even when you thought you were strong, you were nothing but a puppet dancing on strings you could not see. You remember the day it became undeniable, a campaign on a world long forgotten, a rebellion brewing in the shadows. You led the charge, your saber flashing, your soldiers overwhelming the enemy. You believed the victory was yours, that your cunning and your ferocity had crushed the uprising. But when you returned to the throne room, Sidious leaned forward, his smile sharp and cruel, and whispered, "You did exactly as I intended." He showed you maps, documents, intelligence reports written weeks before the battle. He had predicted every move, every outcome, every death. Your triumph had been nothing more than another string pulled, another dance performed for his amusement. The humiliation burned hotter than any wound, because in that moment you realized you had never won anything. Not truly. You had only played the role he designed for you, and roles are temporary. Puppets are disposable. You begin to notice it everywhere. In the Senate, where your words echo only because he allows them to. In the military, where soldiers follow your orders only because his shadow looms over your shoulder. Even in the whispers of the dark side, where you once thought you heard your own power speaking, but now realize it was always his voice bleeding through. Nothing is yours. Not the armies, not the victories, not even your thoughts. The strings tighten. You feel them in your bones, invisible but unbreakable, pulling you in directions you did not choose. Sometimes you wonder what would happen if you resisted, if you gave an order he had not scripted, if you struck a blow he had not commanded. But the thought is brief, and the fear is overwhelming, because you know the punishment for cutting your strings is death, and not quick death, slow, agonizing, designed to remind you and anyone who dares watch that puppets who refuse the dance are better broken than free. And so, you keep playing. You keep leading armies that are not yours, winning victories that belong to him, killing enemies chosen not by you, but by his design. You keep pretending you are the master of your fate, even as the strings tighten with every passing day. But the hunger inside you grows restless, the hunger that the dark side planted in your chest, the hunger that no victory can satisfy. And that hunger whispers of rebellion. It whispers of cutting the strings, of seizing control, of becoming the master instead of the puppet. You cling to the thought, fragile and dangerous, like holding a blade to your own throat, because you know that if he ever senses it, if he ever sees it flicker in your eyes, he will cut you down before you can act. Still, the thought lingers. Still, the hunger burns. And you begin to dream of a day when the strings will snap, when the puppet will cut the hand that holds it, when the marionette will finally become real. But until that day, you endure, you march, you fight, you kill, you kneel, and the galaxy believes you are strong, when in truth, you are hollow. Hollow and full of strings. Tonight, as you return from another campaign, blood still fresh on your armor, you kneel before Sidious once more. His throne looms above you, his face half hidden in shadow, his smile sharp as ever. He leans forward, his voice dripping with mockery. You are my greatest servant, my greatest weapon, my greatest creation. The words echo in your chest, burning like poison. You lower your head, hiding the hatred in your eyes, but you feel the strings tighten once more, binding you tighter, pulling you deeper into the role he has written for you. And then, in the silence of the throne room, he speaks words you did not expect, words that chill you deeper than any blade ever could. It is time, my apprentice, for your strings to be tested. There is a mission awaiting you, one that may decide whether you are truly mine or whether you will break. The silence after those words is suffocating. You bow your head, the weight of the command pressing on your chest like a stone. You know what he means. He is sending you into a trial, not to prove your strength, but to see how tightly the strings hold. And as you rise, the doors of the throne room open, revealing the shadow of a world you know only from whispers, a world that will either bind you tighter to him or snap the strings forever. It starts with a whisper of forever, not the fleeting victories of battle, not the fragile loyalties of men, not even the hollow thrill of conquest, but something deeper, something eternal. You remember the first time Sidious spoke of it. His voice was low, almost reverent, as though even he treated the words with caution. There are secrets the Jedi feared, secrets of the dark side that can cheat death itself. The sentence lingered in the air like incense, heavy, intoxicating, impossible to ignore. You felt the hunger in your chest twist into something sharper, more desperate. Death, the one truth that chains all beings, even Sith. And here was your master, dangling the promise of freedom from it. The chamber was dark when he first told you. Holocrons glowed faintly on pedestals, casting pale light across the stone walls. Dust swirled in the air, caught in thin shafts of red light that slipped between cracks in the ceiling. You stood before him, your body bowed but your spirit burning, and for the first time, the promise felt real. Immortality. The word itself struck like lightning through your veins. It was not power over soldiers or senators. It was not dominance over planets or systems. It was dominion over time itself, and time is the cruelest enemy of all. Sidious knew exactly what he was doing. He saw the hunger in your eyes, the way your breath caught when he spoke of eternal life. He fed it, gently, like tossing scraps to a starving beast. He told you stories of ancient Sith Lords who had defied the grave, of rituals that twisted the Force to preserve the flesh, of powers hidden so deep in shadow that the Jedi buried all records of them. His words slithered into your ears, dripping with temptation, and you believed. How could you not? You had seen what the dark side could already do. Lightning conjured from fingertips, wounds healed with whispers of rage, strength. GTH pulled from pure hatred. If the Force could do all that, why not more? Why not eternity? But each lesson ended the same way, with silence. He would guide you to the edge of revelation, your heart pounding, your mind burning, and then he would stop. Not yet, he would say, his smile sharp and cruel. You are not ready, but soon, perhaps soon. The words were a chain, a hook buried deep in your chest. He gave you just enough to keep you reaching, just enough to keep you believing that the next lesson would reveal everything. And every time the truth slipped just beyond your grasp, you began to feel it everywhere. In the way he spoke, dangling hints of knowledge just out of reach. In the way he handed you fragments of holocrons, incomplete, as though the missing pieces were locked away for only him to see. In the way he lingered on words like forever and immortality, watching your reaction with that predatory smile. He knew the hunger would eat you alive. He wanted it to, because desperation was the leash he favored most. You start to wonder if he has ever found it himself. You look at him sometimes, hunched and withered, his skin pale and cracked like old parchment. He looks like death already, and yet his eyes burn with fire, with hunger, with something that refuses to die. Perhaps he already holds the secret. Perhaps his rotting shell hides eternity within, or perhaps it is a lie, a story he tells to keep you bound. You can't know, and that uncertainty is worse than the hunger itself. That's why it sucked to be a Sith apprentice under Sidious, because even the promise of immortality was not a gift, but bait, a lure to keep you chasing shadows, a leash made not of chains, but of hope. And hope, twisted by desperation, is the cruelest prison of all. You feel the desperation sharpen into obsession. You pore over old texts, holocrons, fragments of Sith lore, searching for the missing pieces. You travel to forgotten worlds, temples buried in ash, ruins haunted by the ghosts of lords who sought eternity and failed. You hear whispers of Darth Plagueis, Sidious's own master, who was said to have bent the Force to preserve life itself. The whispers fill your head with fire. If Plagueis could do it, then so could you. But every time you search for answers, Sidious is already there, watching, smiling, reminding you that whatever you find, whatever secrets you uncover, he already knows them, and he will only reveal them when it suits him. You dream of it often. You dream of standing in a galaxy where death cannot touch you, where your scars fade, where your body never weakens. You dream of watching centuries pass, empires rise and fall, stars burn out, while you remain, eternal, infinite. But when you wake, you are reminded of the truth. The hunger still gnaws, the void still consumes, and Sidious still dangles the bait just out of reach. It twists you inside. You begin to see every injury, every scar, every sign of your own mortality as proof of your weakness. You hate the way your body aches after battle, the way wounds leave marks that never truly fade. You hate the thought that one day, no matter how strong you become, time will drag you into the grave. And so, you cling to his whispers like a drowning man clings to driftwood, even though you know it will not save you. And Sidious delights in it. He watches you with those molten eyes, savoring the way your desperation grows, the way your voice trembles when you ask for more. He never denies you directly. He never says no. He only says, "Not yet." And the words are enough to enslave you, because not yet means there is still hope. Not yet means that one day, if you be yourself, if you endure, if you survive, the secret will be yours. But deep down, you fear the truth that there is no secret, that he has nothing to give, that immortality is just another lie, another illusion, another mask he wears to keep you kneeling. And yet, even if it is a lie, you cannot stop reaching for it, because the alternative, the thought of dying, of vanishing into nothingness, of being forgotten, is unbearable. So you endure, you bleed, you kneel, you obey, all for the chance, however slim, that one day the bait will be real, that one day you will not just be another corpse in Sidious's long line of discarded apprentices, that one day you will escape the one truth that even the strongest cannot deny. But tonight, something feels different. You kneel before him once more, the air thick with incense, the shadows deep around his throne. His eyes burn as they meet yours, and his voice slides across your skin like a blade. You wish to know the secrets of immortality? Then prove to me you are worthy. The words strike like lightning. For the first time he does not say, "Not yet." For the first time he does not deny. Instead, he promises. But promises from Sidious are always traps, always chains, always bait. And as his smile widens, sharp and cruel, you feel the hunger coil tighter inside you. This is what you wanted. This is what you begged for. But the fire in his eyes tells you the truth. You will not gain eternity. You will only sink deeper into his leash. And as the doors of the throne room open, you see a new figure waiting in the shadows, carrying with them the trial that will decide whether you walk closer to immortality or to your own destruction. The first scream is always the loudest. It pierces through the roar of blaster fire, through the thunder of collapsing walls, through the hum of your saber as it cuts through flesh. It echoes in your skull, sharp and raw, like glass grinding against your bones. And even when the sound fades, when the battlefield grows quiet, the scream remains. It burrows into you, curling in the dark recesses of your mind, refusing to die. You tell yourself it was necessary, that it was war, that it was Sidious's command. But no matter how many times you repeat the words, no matter how tightly you cling to them, the truth clings tighter still. You are carrying the blood of countless innocents, not from your will, but his. And the blood does not wash off. It never does. The weight comes in fragments, the faces of those you struck down, a child hiding behind a broken wall, their eyes wide with terror before your saber cut the air. A mother reaching for her son as the stormtroopers' blasters lit up the night. A man on his knees whispering a prayer to gods you do not believe in before you silenced him forever. Their voices don't fade when the battle ends. They linger, they cling. Their screams wrap around you like smoke, bitter and choking, the smell of fire burning into your skin until you cannot tell if it is real or memory. You remember one world in particular. Its skies were painted with fire, its cities crumbling under the weight of imperial bombardment. You walked through its streets, the air thick with ash, the stench of burning bodies curling in your lungs. The people didn't fight, they didn't resist. They knelt, they begged, and still, you raised your blade. Still, you obeyed, because Sidious demanded it. Because hesitation meant death. Because the rule of two left no room for mercy. And so you slaughtered the helpless, one after another, their blood splashing across your armor, and their eyes reflecting the horror you had become. You told yourself you were serving a greater purpose, but deep down you knew the truth. You weren't serving the galaxy. You were serving his hunger. And that's why it sucked to be a Sith apprentice under Sidious, because the atrocities you carried were never your choice. They were his commands. And yet the galaxy never saw him in the blood. They only saw you. The aftermath is worse than the act. When the screams fade, when the smoke clears, when silence falls, you are left with nothing but ghosts. They follow you. You hear them when you walk through empty halls, their whispers brushing against the edges of your mind. You see them in the reflection of your blade, their faces pale and hollow, staring back at you through the crimson light. You smell them in the air, the acrid sting of charred flesh that never leaves your nostrils. You taste them in your mouth, bitter as ash. You carry them in your skin, in your scars, in the shadows beneath your eyes. And no matter how much you try to bury them, no matter how many more you kill to drown out the memory, they rise again, louder, heavier, unavoidable. Sidious never speaks of them. He doesn't need to. He knows the ghosts are there. He knows the screams haunt you, and he delights in it, because guilt is another chain, regret is another leash. The atrocities you commit are not just victories for him, they are prisons for you. Every innocent you kill binds you tighter to him, because you know you can never go back. You can never wash the blood from your hands. You can never stand in the light again. And so you remain in the dark, kneeling, obeying, killing again and again, until the weight crushes what remains of your soul. You try to silence the guilt with anger. You tell yourself the innocents deserved it, that weakness is death, that the galaxy bends only to strength. You repeat his teachings until your throat is raw, until your mind aches. But the faces still come, the screams still rise, and the anger only feeds the hunger inside you, the hunger that the dark side sharpens with every kill. You realize with a hollow certainty that you are not silencing guilt, you are burying it alive, and the more you bury, the louder it claws to escape. You wonder sometimes if Sidious feels it too, if the screams ever haunted him, if the blood ever stained his dreams. But when you look at him, when you see the way his lips curl into that thin, cruel smile, you know the answer. He does not carry the weight. He does not suffer the ghosts. He feeds on them. He thrives on them. He throws the burden onto you, and in your suffering he grows stronger. You are his apprentice, but you are also his sacrifice. Every atrocity you commit is not just for his empire. It is for his amusement. There are moments when the weight feels unbearable. Moments when you look at your own hands, trembling, scarred, drenched in the memory of blood, and you wonder what you have become. You wonder if you are even human anymore, or if you are just a vessel of slaughter, a shadow molded by his cruelty. You wonder if there is any part of you left untouched by the atrocities you've committed, and every time you ask, the answer is the same. No, there isn't. And so, the cycle continues. More missions, more orders, more innocents slaughtered, more screams added to the chorus in your skull. The weight grows heavier, pressing into your chest, making it harder to breathe, harder to think, harder to be anything but the weapon he forged. You tell yourself you are enduring. You tell yourself this is strength, but deep down, you know the truth. You are not enduring, you are breaking, slowly, quietly, irreversibly. And that's the cruelty of Sidious's design. He doesn't need to kill you. He doesn't need to destroy you. He only needs to let the weight of atrocity crush you from within. And when you finally collapse under it, when you finally shatter, he will smile. Because that is the fate of every apprentice who serves him. To drown not in battle, but in the blood of innocence. But tonight, something is different. Tonight, as you stand in the silence of the throne room, the ghosts pressing against your chest, Sidious speaks words that chill you deeper than any scream ever could. There will be another purge. His voice is calm, measured, dripping with certainty. This time, not of Jedi, not of rebels, of civilians, entire worlds. The weight you already carry presses heavier, suffocating, unbearable. You feel your throat tighten, your fists clench, your breath stutter. Entire worlds, entire populations, their screams will join the ones already tearing you apart. Their blood will soak into your hands until you are nothing but a husk made of guilt and hate. And as his eyes burn into you, waiting, demanding, commanding, you realize the truth. The weight of atrocity has not yet reached its peak. It is only beginning. And far away beyond the shadows of the throne room, you hear whispers of a rebellion that refuses to die. A rebellion that may soon force you to choose, not between victory and defeat, but between the weight that will break you and the chains that already have. Silence has a weight. It presses down on you when the battlefield quiets, when the chambers empty, when the corridors stretch too long and too cold. It is heavier than armor, sharper than blades, colder than stone, and it follows you everywhere. The silence of the Sith, the silence of companionship that never was and never will be. You once thought the dark side would bring you allies, that power would attract those who shared your hunger, but the truth revealed itself slowly, like frost creeping across glass. There are no friends here. No brothers in arms, no warmth in the night, only silence, only suspicion. You feel it most in the long hours after the missions, when the blood has dried on your hands and the ghosts of the slain whisper in your dreams. You walk the corridors of the Imperial Palace, its halls lit by the pale glow of cold lamps, the air humming faintly with the breath of endless machinery. Troopers stand at attention as you pass, their white helmets hiding any trace of humanity. You know they fear you. You see it in the way their posture stiffens, in the way their hands tighten on their blasters. But fear is not companionship. Fear is not trust. Fear is silence. You think back to the Jedi, though you would never admit it aloud. For all their hypocrisy, for all their chains, they had each other. You remember the way they fought side by side, blades flashing in harmony, voices steady with the reassurance that they were never alone. Even in their strictest discipline, there was connection. Even in their dogma, there was trust, and that's why it sucked to be a Jedi. They were bound by rules that strangled freedom, but at least they were bound together. As a Sith, you are bound only to yourself. Sidious made sure of it. From the moment you knelt, he taught you suspicion. He told you every word was a lie, every gesture a trap, every hand extended toward you. Just another attempt to drag you into weakness. He painted the galaxy not as allies and enemies, but as predators and prey. And when you looked into the eyes of another Sith, another apprentice, you knew what he meant. You didn't see a comrade. You saw a rival. You saw someone who would one day try to kill you, or someone you would be forced to kill first. That's the silence of the Sith. It isn't empty. It's tense. It's sharp. It's the silence of two predators circling each other in the dark, waiting for the first misstep. You feel it in the air every time you share a chamber with another apprentice, every time you cross paths in the corridors, every time you fight back to back against a common enemy. There is no trust in those moments, only calculation, only suspicion, only silence. And yet, in the quietest hours, when you lie awake in your chamber, you feel the ache of something deeper. Loneliness. It coils around you like a serpent, cold and relentless, tightening with every breath. You long for a voice that doesn't carry threats, for a gaze that doesn't measure your worth, for a touch that doesn't end in betrayal. But the Sith offer none of that. They offer only silence. And so you bury the longing, smother it beneath anger, drown it in the hunger of the dark side, because longing is weakness, and weakness is death. Still, the ache lingers. You try to silence it with cruelty, with victory, with conquest. You tell yourself that power is enough, that fear is better than love, that solitude is the price of strength. But the ache laughs at you. It reminds you that all your victories, all your power, all your masks of respect mean nothing when you close your eyes at night and hear only the hum of the palace walls. The silence eats at you. The silence defines you. You wonder if Sidious feels it. You watch him on his throne, surrounded by senators who bow, officers who kneel, armies who obey, and yet, even he is alone. No equal sits beside him. No voice speaks to him without fear. His power isolates him, just as it isolates you. And maybe that is the true curse of the Sith, that the closer you come to mastery, the lonelier you become, until there is nothing left but the silence, stretching eternal. Sometimes you imagine breaking it. Sometimes you imagine reaching out to another apprentice, another shadow, another soul trapped in the same chains. You imagine speaking words of understanding, of shared suffering. You imagine finding, in the heart of darkness, a fragment of connection. But the thought dies as quickly as it comes, because you know how it would end. With betrayal, with blades, with silence. Always silence. That's why it sucked to be a Sith apprentice under Sidious, because even when you craved companionship, even when you longed for connection, the Order gave you nothing but isolation. Your only company was suspicion, your only warmth was hatred, your only friend was silence. And so, you grow used to it. You learn to wear the silence like armor, to let suspicion sharpen you instead of weaken you. You learn to replace companionship with paranoia, to measure every glance, every word, every gesture, until trust itself feels like a foreign concept. You become comfortable in the void, not because you want to, but because you must. And when the loneliness claws too deep, when the silence grows too heavy, you remind yourself of the Sith refrain. Connection is weakness. Solitude is strength. Betrayal is inevitable. But deep inside, you know it's a lie. You know that no amount of strength will silence the ache of isolation. No amount of power will replace the warmth of companionship. You know that every victory, every conquest, every illusion of respect will feel hollow as long as you walk this path alone. And that knowledge is heavier than any scar, sharper than any blade. Tonight, the silence feels different. You stand in the corridor outside Sidious's chamber, the torches flickering low, the shadows long and shifting. You feel a presence in the Force, close, pressing against your mind. Another apprentice, another shadow. You turn, and in their eyes you see the same loneliness reflected, the same ache hidden behind suspicion. For a fleeting heartbeat you wonder if this is the moment, if perhaps the silence can be broken. But then their hand twitches toward their saber, their eyes narrow, and the fleeting heartbeat is gone. The silence deepens, heavier than before, pressing down until it feels like it might crush you entirely. And as the chamber doors hiss open behind you, Sidious's voice slides into the corridor, soft and venomous. Good, very good. Let the silence sharpen you. Let it remind you what it means to be Sith. The doors close again, and you are left in the corridor with nothing but the echo of his laughter and the suffocating weight of silence that will never leave you. But far away, beyond the shadows of the palace, another voice is rising, not a whisper of suspicion but a cry of rebellion, and soon that cry will shatter the silence you have come to know. You lie awake in the darkness, staring at the ceiling of your chamber. The faint hum of machinery pulses through the walls, steady and relentless, like the beating of a mechanical heart that belongs not to you, but to the Empire itself. Sleep doesn't come anymore. Not when your mind keeps dragging you back to the same question, again and again, until it feels carved into your bones. Is this what every apprentice before me endured? Did they all live beneath this same shadow, trained not to ascend, but to die by the hand that claimed to raise them? The thought coils around you, heavy and suffocating, as if the walls themselves are leaning in to whisper the truth. You think of the names Sidious spoke in passing, the whispers of masters and apprentices lost to history. Darth Bane, who carved the rule of two into stone with blood and betrayal. Darth Tenebrous, whose schemes outlived his flesh. Darth Plagueis, Sidious's own master, said to have sought immortality, only to be silenced in his sleep. And Maul, the snarling blade of hatred who was cut down when he outlived his usefulness. Tyrannus, the proud Count Dooku, executed with a flick of the Emperor's fingers. Vader, the enforcer who crushed Jedi underfoot yet still knelt like a dog, chained until his mask became his coffin. You feel their ghosts pressing in around you, a lineage not of triumph, but of doom, apprentices cursed to live and die in torment, each believing they were chosen, each discovering they were disposable. You wonder if they lay awake as you do, their breaths ragged, their thoughts poisoned by the same realization, that their training was never meant to elevate them, it was meant to break them, to sharpen them into weapons, and when the blade dulled, to cast them aside. That's why it sucked to be a Sith apprentice under Sidious, because your destiny was not greatness, it was death, and the hand that would and you would be the same hand that fed you power. You try to tell yourself you will be different, that you are stronger, that you will escape the curse. But the thought feels fragile, brittle, like glass cracking under pressure, because Sidious has already woven the outcome into every lesson, every trial, every whisper. He has already written your end, just as he wrote the ends of all who came before you. He sharpens you with pain, not to prepare you for his throne, but to make your death more satisfying when it comes. You remember one of his lessons, delivered in the cold stillness of the throne room, his voice soft and venomous. The apprentice must always crave the master's power, and the master must always guard against the apprentice's ambition. It is balance. It is truth. At the time you nodded, pretending to understand, but now the truth sinks in, heavy and cruel. Balance means death. Balance means you will rise only to be struck down, just as he struck down Plagueis, just as one day someone will strike down you. The chamber grows colder as the thought festers. You imagine the moment, his yellow eyes burning, his twisted face curled into that cruel smile, his hand raised, lightning tearing through you. You can almost smell the ozone, hear the crackle of energy as it scorches your skin. You can almost feel your body convulsing, your voice breaking into a scream as he watches with delight. The image lingers too vividly, as though it is not a nightmare but a memory waiting to happen. And yet the curse is more than just death. It is isolation, it is paranoia. It is knowing that every word of praise is a chain, every lesson a trap, every promise a lie. It is the weight of realizing that you are not being trained to rule, you are being trained to fail. Sidious grooms you not as an heir but as a sacrifice, a necessary casualty in the endless cycle of master and apprentice, predator and prey. You walk the palace halls and wonder if their footsteps still echo here. If Maul once stood where you now stand, his rage simmering under Sidious's gaze, if Tyrannus once knelt where you now kneel, his pride crumbling under the Emperor's sneer, if Vader once bowed his head in the same silence, his thoughts drowning in the weight of servitude. And now it is you, another link in the chain, another cursed apprentice, another shadow waiting for the blade that will cut it down. You think of Vader often. The galaxy feared him, trembled at the sound of his breath, cowered at the sight of his blade. He seemed invincible. Yet in the end he too was only a puppet, a pawn in Sidious's endless game. You wonder if he felt it too. The curse, the inevitability, the certainty that no matter how high you climb, you will always fall at your master's feet. The weight of that knowledge gnaws at you. It whispers when you close your eyes, when you feel the hunger gnaw at your chest, when you stand in the silence of the throne room. It tells you that your fate is already written, that no matter how strong you become, no matter how many battles you win, you are doomed to the same end as all who came before you, death at his hand. But another whisper lingers beneath it, softer, dangerous. It tells you that the curse can be broken, that if you strike first, if you cut the chain before it closes around your throat, you might escape. You might become master instead of victim. The thought is you, burns in your chest like fire, but the fire is dangerous because Sidious sees everything, he hears everything, and if he senses the thought for even a moment, he will crush you before it can bloom. Still, the thought lingers. Still, the fire burns. And you wonder if this is the true test of every apprentice, not whether they can serve, not whether they can obey, but whether they can defy the curse, whether they can rise above it, or whether they will crumble beneath it like all the rest. You pace your chamber, the shadows long, the air stale. The ghosts of apprentices past press closer, their voices whispering in your ears. Maul snarls in anger. Tyrannus weeps in regret. Vader breathes in sorrow. Plagueis murmurs in warning. Their voices blur into a chorus, rising and falling, pressing against your chest until your breath comes shallow, until your hands tremble. You are not alone. You never were. The curse binds you to them all, and that is the cruelest truth. The Sith speak of power, of freedom, of mastery, but the reality is a lineage of corpses, each apprentice devoured by the master they once served. The rule of two is not a law of balance, it is a curse of betrayal, a cycle of blood and shadows that stretches across centuries with no end in sight. And now you are its next victim, unless... The word burns in your mind sharp and blinding, unless you break it, unless you strike first, unless you refuse the fate written for you. The thought is dangerous, treacherous, blasphemous, but it is the only hope you have left, to become not another ghost, Not another victim, not another cursed apprentice, but the one who finally escapes. Your breath quickens, your fists clench, the hunger sharpens. You hear Sidious's voice in your mind, mocking, whispering, "You will never escape me. You will never break the curse." And the whisper coils into a laugh, cold and cruel, echoing until the chamber seems to vibrate with it. You fall to your knees, teeth gritted, rage boiling in your chest. You want to scream, to tear the walls apart, to shatter the cycle with your bare hands. But you cannot, not yet, not while his shadow looms so vast. And then, in the silence that follows, you feel it, a presence in the Force, not Sidious, not the hunger, something else, distant, faint, but real. A light in the darkness, a spark beyond the curse. It flickers in your chest, fragile but undeniable, and for the first time, you wonder if perhaps you are not as alone as you thought. And as you lift your head, your vision blurred with rage and exhaustion, the doors of your chamber slide open. A figure stands in the threshold, cloaked in shadow, their presence heavy with power. You cannot yet see their face, but you know with a certainty that chills you to your core that they carry with them the choice that will decide whether you remain cursed or finally break free. Failure has a taste, bitter, metallic, heavier than blood. You taste it now as you kneel on the cold stone floor, your body trembling, your breath shallow, your eyes fixed on the shadows curling around the throne. You thought you had endured pain before, thought you had survived the worst the dark side could carve into flesh. But you were wrong, because punishment under Darth Sidious is not swift, it is not clean, it is not even truly about correction, it is about destruction. When you fail him, the Emperor's wrath does not kill you, it breaks you piece by piece until the only thing left is obedience. The chamber is silent, but for the faint hum of the torches, their flames flickering against the polished black walls. You feel the air grow heavier as he rises, his figure moving slowly, deliberately, like a predator that knows its prey cannot escape. His footsteps echo against the stone, each one sharp and final until they stop just behind you. The smell reaches you first, the faint stench of rot, of decay hidden beneath perfume and incense. Then his voice, low, venomous. "You disappoint me." The words strike harder than any blade. You flinch, not at the volume, but at the intimacy. His wrath always begins softly, like a hand sliding gently across your throat before it squeezes. You open your mouth to speak, to explain, to plead, but his hand rises before you can. The air itself seems to shudder. And then the pain begins. Lightning erupts from his fingertips, crackling arcs of pure agony that slam into your body, burning through flesh and muscle, setting your nerves alight like dry kindling. You scream, the sound ripping from your throat before you can stop it. The smell of scorched fabric fills the chamber, mingling with the acrid sting of ozone. Your vision flickers white, your limbs convulse, your chest feels as though it might split apart. But this is only the beguine. Cunning. Because Sidious never punishes swiftly, he draws it out. He lets the current fade just enough for you to gasp for air, to feel the relief of the pain ending, before he ignites it again, worse than before. Each wave comes sharper, colder, burrowing deeper, until the pain no longer feels external. It becomes part of you, woven into your bones, etched into your veins. You fall to the ground, your body twitching, smoke curling from your skin, and still, he is not finished. He circles you slowly, his voice cutting through the haze of agony like a scalpel. Weakness cannot be tolerated. Weakness cannot endure. Do you think yourself strong, my apprentice? Do you think strength is survival? Another surge of lightning tears through you, ripping a fresh scream from your chest. No, strength is obedience. Strength is submission, and you will learn it. Each word drives deeper than the lightning. Each word burrows into the cracks the pain has opened. You try to resist, try to summon hatred, try to cling to the fire of defiance. But the pain is too much. It strips you bare, shreds your defenses, until you are raw and trembling, until your thoughts blur into nothing but instinct. Survive, endure, obey, That's the cruelty of Sidious's wrath. It isn't just punishment, it's reprogramming. He doesn't want you dead, he wants you hollow. He wants to scrape out everything that makes you you and fill the empty vessel with nothing but his will. And that's why it sucked to be a Sith apprentice under Sidious. Because failure was not death. Death would have been mercy. Failure meant living, but living as less than you were before. Living as a shadow carved into submission, with every scar and scream etched into your soul as a reminder that you belong to him. The pain shifts, the lightning ceases, but the silence is worse. You lie on the floor, gasping, your skin burning, your muscles quivering. You dare to hope it's over, but then you feel it, his hand pressing against your chest, cold as stone, fingers clawing into your flesh. You feel the dark side flow into you, not as energy, but as invasion. It floods your veins, coils around your heart, burrows into your mind. You feel him inside you, prying into your thoughts, ripping apart your memories. He drags out the faces of those you've killed, the screams of the innocence you carry, the hunger that gnaws at you in silence. He twists them, sharpens them, amplifies them, until you can't tell what is real and what is his design. You scream again, but not from physical pain this time, from the violation, from the certainty that even your thoughts no longer belong to you. He whispers as he digs deeper, his voice soft, intimate, cruel. You are mine. Your flesh is mine. Your mind is mine. Your will is mine. You live because I allow it. You suffer because I demand it. And you will rise only when I permit it. The words echo inside you, rattling through your skull until you almost believe them, until obedience feels less like surrender and more like survival. Until your screams fade into silence, and all that remains is a trembling whisper, "Yes, my master." That's the moment he waits for. Not your pain, not your screams, your submission. He pulls back, his hand withdrawing, the dark side receding like a tide leaving scars in the sand. He steps away, his cloak dragging across the stone, and you are left on the floor, broken, burned, hollow. He does not look back as he returns to his throne. He does not need to. He knows you will not rise until he commands it. And so you remain there, gasping, trembling, your body a map of agony, your mind a nest of scars. You thought you hated him before. You thought your rage was already complete. But now, lying in the wreckage of his wrath, you realize there is a deeper hatred still. A hatred not just of him, but of yourself. For kneeling, for obeying, for surviving. Because survival under Sidious is not triumph, it is surrender. The chamber grows quiet again. The torches flicker, the shadows stretch, and you lie there, hollow, waiting for the strength to stand. You know you will rise. You always do, because that is the curse of the apprentice. Not that you fall, but that you are forced to rise again, weaker each time, more hollow each time, more his each time. But tonight, as you push your trembling hands against the stone, something feels different. The force stirs around you, faint but undeniable. Not Sidious's presence, not the hunger of the dark side. Something else, a ripple, a disturbance, a spark that does not belong to him. Your breath catches, your vision blurs, your heart pounds against your ribs. You don't know what it is. You don't know where it comes from, but you know this. The Emperor's wrath has broken you, but it has also left cracks. And through those cracks, something new is seeping in. And as you lift your head, still trembling, still burned, you hear the faint sound of alarms echoing in the distance. A rebellion has stirred, a spark has ignited, and soon that spark will demand you choose whether to obey your master or defy him. Hatred has a sound. It isn't loud, not like blaster fire or thunder. It's quiet, a low hum, a vibration that coils in your chest, rattles in your bones, sharpens the edges of every thought. It lingers long after the lightning fades, long after the punishments end, long after the screams die in your throat. You feel it now, smoldering beneath your scars, feeding on your pain. Not ambition, not dreams, not freedom, only hatred. And yet, even that fire, the only fuel you have left, does not belong to you. It belongs to him. You rise from the stone floor of the throne room, your body still trembling from the Emperor's wrath. The smell of scorched flesh clings to you, your skin burned in jagged patches that sting with every breath. The torches flicker above, casting long shadows across the chamber, and in those shadows, you feel his eyes, watching, measuring, smiling. You clench your fists, nails digging into your palms, and for a moment you imagine striking him. You imagine driving your blade into his withered chest, silencing his laughter, ending his reign. The hatred flares hot and sharp, filling your veins with fire. But even as the image burns in your mind, you feel the leash tighten. The fire you think is yours is just another chain. Because Sidious does not just allow your hatred, he feeds it, he sharpens it, he makes it his weapon. You stumble back to your chamber, the corridor echoing with your ragged steps. The walls hum with the endless breath of machinery, the air thick with the metallic sting of recycled oxygen. The silence presses against your ears until it feels suffocating. You collapse onto the cold slab you call a bed, your body trembling, your mind a storm. You hate him. You hate the way he breaks you, the way he twists you, the way he turns every scar into a leash. You hate the way he controls you. And you hate yourself more for letting him, for obeying, for surviving when survival means nothing but submission. The hatred twists tighter, sharper, until it becomes the only thing that keeps your heart beating. You feel it in every breath, every movement, every thought. It devours the hunger, it silences the loneliness, it drowns the guilt. Hatred is all you have left, and yet, even in that fire, you feel his voice, whispering in the back of your skull. Yes, good. Let your hate make you strong. The words slither through you, a mockery of freedom. Because the hatred you cling to as your last weapon is the same hatred he demands you feed. You are not rebelling, you are obeying. That's why it sucked to be a Sith apprentice under Sidious. Because even your hatred, the one thing you thought was truly yours, was just another tool he carved into you. You are not the master of your fire. You are its prisoner. You begin to see it in the way he speaks to you. He doesn't punish the hatred, he encourages it. He stokes it like a fire in a dying hearth, feeding it with cruelty, with humiliation, with endless torment. When you fail, he doesn't just punish you, he reminds you of your weakness, of your inadequacy, of the chains you can never break. And you respond not with despair, but with hatred. He wants you to. Because hatred keeps you sharp, hatred keeps you obedient, hatred makes you believe you are strong, even as it chains you tighter to his will. You remember one mission in particular, a rebel outpost hidden in the rocks of a barren world. You descended on it with fire, your saber cutting through soldiers who barely had time to raise their blasters. You slaughtered them one by one, their screams mixing with the crackle of blaster fire, the air thick with smoke and ash. You felt the hatred burning hotter with each strike, your body moving faster, your blade sharper, your rage unstoppable. And when it was over, when the outpost was reduced to corpses and rubble, you stood there trembling, your heart racing, the fire still roaring inside you. For a moment you thought the hatred was victory, but when you returned, Sidious only smiled. Yes, you are beginning to understand, and you realize the truth. Even in your bloodlust, you were only following his design. Even in your hatred, you were still his puppet. You lie awake at night, the ghosts pressing closer, the silence heavier than stone, and you ask yourself the same question again and again. Is there anything left of you that is yours? Your victories are his, your chains are his, your hunger is his, and now even your hatred belongs to him. You feel hollow, carved into nothing but fire and obedience, your identity burned away until the only thing left is a weapon shaped by his hand. But still, you cling to the hatred, because what else is there? Without it, you are empty. Without it, you are nothing. The fire may be his, but it is the only fire you have left. And so, you feed it. You let it burn through you. Let it devour the weakness. Let it drown the ghosts. You tell yourself that one day, the fire will consume him too. One day, you will turn his weapon against him. One day, the hatred he sharpened will cut him down. It is a fragile hope, dangerous, fragile as glass. But it is all you have, and yet the doubt lingers, because every time you feel the fire rise, every time you strike in rage, every time the hatred surges through you, you hear his voice again, whispering with delight, "Good, good, you are mine." And you wonder if even the dream of rebellion is just another illusion he has planted, another leash disguised as freedom, another flame that burns only at his command. The corridors of the palace stretch endlessly, the shadows long, the silence oppressive. You walk them often, your footsteps echoing, your mind gnawed by fire and doubt. You see the stormtroopers stiffen as you pass, their eyes hidden, their fear palpable. They think you are strong. They think the fire in your eyes belongs to you, but you know better. You know the truth. You are not feared. You are not strong. You are not free. You are only a shadow, only a puppet, only fire chained to his will, and that is the curse of the Sith apprentice, to live in hatred, but never own it, to burn but never choose what the flames consume, to be forged into a weapon, but never allowed to strike where you wish. Tonight, the fire feels different. You stand at the viewport of your chamber, staring out at the endless sprawl of Coruscant, its towers glowing like veins of molten light across the darkness. The city hums with life, but you feel none of it, only the fire in your chest, the fire that Sidious planted, the fire that devours you from within, and yet, for the first time, you feel something else. A flicker beneath the fire, a spark that does not belong to him. It is faint, fragile, but real, a spark of defiance, a spark of you. Your breath catches, your hands tremble, the fire snarls, trying to consume it, but the spark remains. And in that moment you realize something that chills you to your core. Perhaps the hatred does not belong to him entirely. Perhaps there is still a fragment of it that is yours. A fragment you can shape. A fragment you can wield. The thought is dangerous, treacherous. It could destroy you if he senses it, but it burns brighter than the fire itself. And as you turn from the viewport, the door to your chamber hisses open. A shadow stands in the threshold, cloaked, silent, their presence heavy in the Force. You do not know who they are, but you know this: they carry with them the choice of what your fire will consume next, obedience or rebellion. You wake in the dark, drenched in sweat, the echoes of dreams still clinging to your skin like ash. In the dream, you are not yourself, you are others. Faces flicker in your vision, horned, scarred, masked, broken. Voices whisper in your ears, snarling, screaming, begging. You see red blades ignited only to be extinguished. You see promises made only to be betrayed. You see empires rise only to fall. And when you finally catch your reflection in the dream, you see not your own face, but 1,000 others, the faces of every apprentice who came before you. All of them promised the galaxy, all of them ending as ash in Sidious's shadow. You rise from your slab, your breath ragged, the taste of iron on your tongue. The chamber is silent, but you are not alone. Their ghosts linger, pressing against your chest, clawing at your mind. You feel Maul's rage, sharp and wild, his life cut short in betrayal. You feel Tyrannus's pride, crumbling into despair in the instant his master ordered his execution. You feel Vader's sorrow, bound in chains of steel and regret, his body broken, his spirit hollow. You feel them all. Apprentices who thought themselves chosen, apprentices who believed they were destined to inherit the throne, but the throne was never theirs. It was never meant for them. It was never meant for you. The cycle stretches back centuries, an unbroken chain forged in blood and shadows. Darth Bane, the one who set it into motion, carving the rule of two into the very marrow of the Sith. He promised it would bring strength, that limiting the order to master and apprentice would prevent self-destruction. But what did it bring? Endless betrayal, eternal suspicion, an infinite loop where apprentices rose with hope and fell with despair. A wheel that turns forever, grinding ambition into dust, and you are caught inside it, bound like all the others, spinning toward the same eye. Inevitable end. You wonder if any of them realized it. Did they know, as you know now, that the rule of two was not balance but a curse? Did they lie awake at night, haunted by the certainty that they would never rule, that their destiny was to sharpen their master's blade until it pierced their own chest? Or did they cling to the illusion until the very end, blind to the truth even as it consumed them? You want to believe you are different. You want to believe you see the truth more clearly. But even that thought feels like another trap, because every apprentice must have believed the same thing, and still, they all ended the same way. That's why it sucked to be a Sith apprentice under Sidious, because no matter how strong you became, no matter how cunning, No matter how ruthless, you were never anything but another turn of the wheel. The cycle would devour you, as it devoured them all. You walk the corridors of the palace, your footsteps echoing against the cold stone, the shadows pressing close. You imagine them walking here before you. Maul, young and eager, his hatred blazing like a sun. Tyrannus, regal and proud, his arrogance masking the fear in his chest. Vader, heavy and broken, his breath rattling through his mask, his every step a reminder of chains he could never break. They all walked these halls. They all knelt before Sidious. They all dreamed of ruling, and they all ended the same way. The cycle is everywhere. You see it in Sidious's eyes when he looks at you, not with pride, not with affection, but with the cold certainty of inevitability. He knows your fate. He has already decided it. He knows you will rise, yes, but only high enough to fall, only far enough to sharpen his own power. He will let you feed on hatred, let you drown in hunger, let you carve your name into the galaxy's flesh. But when the time comes, when your usefulness wanes, he will cast you aside, not because you failed, but because that is the way of the Sith, the way of the cycle. You remember when he told you the story of Plagueis, his master, his victim. He spoke of him almost fondly, as though recounting a lesson well learned. Plagueis sought immortality, he sought eternity. And what did he find? Death. Not from his enemies, not from the Jedi, but from his own apprentice, from Sidious himself. You asked why. And Sidious's answer chilled you to your bones, because it was his destiny, because it is the destiny of all apprentices, and one day, it will be yours. He said it as casually as one might speak of the weather, as though betrayal was not tragedy, but truth. And perhaps it is. Perhaps this is what it means to be Sith, to live in a cycle of endless betrayal, to burn with ambition, only to die in your master's shadow, to take a seat beside him, only to realize it is never truly yours, to hold the galaxy in your hand, only to feel it crumble into ash. You lie awake again, staring at the ceiling, your chest heavy, your mind racing. The cycle is unbreakable. It has endured for centuries. It will endure for centuries more. But then, a thought flickers, dangerous, fragile, but real. What if it doesn't have to? What if the cycle can be broken? You feel the spark ignite inside you, faint but blinding in the dark. You imagine a galaxy where the rule of two is shattered, where apprentices do not serve only to die, where masters do not rise only to fall. You imagine freedom, true freedom, and the thought burns in your chest like fire. But fire is dangerous. Fire spreads, fire consumes, and you know Sidious will see it if it grows too bright. He will stamp it out just as he stamped out every apprentice before you. He will remind you that the cycle is eternal, and you are only another link in the chain. Still, the spark lingers. Still the fire burns. You cannot let it go. You cannot let the ghosts of the past be your only future. You cannot let the cycle devour you, not without a fight. You close your eyes, fists clenched, breath sharp. The faces of the apprentices swirl in your mind, their voices echoing louder. Maul snarls with rage. Tyrannus weeps with regret. Vader breathes in sorrow. Plagueis whispers in warning. They are all telling you the same thing. The cycle is endless. The cycle is unbreakable. The cycle will claim you. But beneath their chorus, you hear something else. A voice, softer, fainter, but different. Not despair, not rage, not warning. A whisper of defiance. A whisper that tells you the cycle can be broken. A whisper that tells you that you can be the one to end it. Your heart pounds. Your chest tightens. You know the path ahead is dangerous. You know Sidious will kill you if he senses it. You know the fire of rebellion could burn you alive before it ever reaches him. But still, the whisper lingers. Still the fire burns. And as you open your eyes, the chamber door hisses open. Sidious's voice cuts through the silence, sharp and cold. Rise, my apprentice. It is time. His eyes burn with fire, his smile sharp as a blade. And you realize, with a hollow certainty, that the cycle is not waiting. It is already turning. And soon it will demand your place in it. Betrayal is not always a blade in the dark. Sometimes it is a whisper. Sometimes it is a smile. Sometimes it is the slow realization that everything you believed, everything you bled for, everything you killed for, was never real. You thought you were heir to his throne. You thought all your torment, all your training, all your scars were leading to that moment when Sidious would finally step aside and you would rise as master. But tonight, as his words curl around you like smoke, the truth reveals itself. You were never his heir. You were always his placeholder. It begins with silence. The throne room is darker than usual. The torches dim to faint embers, the air thick with the metallic tang of ozone. You kneel on the cold stone, your body heavy, your thoughts restless. Sidious leans forward in his throne, his shadow long, his smile sharp. His eyes burn with that unnatural yellow glow, molten and endless. You wait for the lesson, for the command, for the pain, but this time, he gives you none of those. This time, he gives you something worse. Did you think you were chosen? His voice is soft, mocking, almost amused. Did you think all of this was for you? The words strike harder than lightning. You flinch, but you do not answer. You cannot, because deep down, you already feel the truth clawing at the edges of your chest. He rises slowly, his cloak dragging across the stone, his steps deliberate, echoing like the toll of a funeral bell. He circles you, his shadow brushing across your skin, his presence pressing down until you can barely breathe, and then he whispers close to your ear, "You were never meant to rule. You were never heir. You were always temporary." The chamber tilts, your vision blurring, your breath catching in your throat. Temporary. The word burns deeper than any scar, sharper than any blade. You thought your suffering had meaning. You thought your chains had purpose. You thought the cycle of torment was forging you into something greater, but now you see it for what it is. You were never being sharpened into a master. You were being shaped into a mask, a puppet, a placeholder until the true heir arrived. That's why it sucked to be a Sith apprentice under Sidious, because the throne you thought you were promised was never yours. It was always an illusion, and you were never destined to inherit his empire. You were only meant to hold it, to keep it warm, until he found someone better. You try to speak, to demand answers, to claw back some fragment of control, but the words die in your throat. He doesn't need your questions. He already knows them. He already delights in them. His smile widens, cruel and knowing, as he lays bare the truth you never wanted to face. The Sith do not need heirs. The Sith need tools. You are my tool. You always were. And when your edge dulls, you will be replaced. The chamber spins. You see the faces of those who came before you, Maul, Tyrannus, Vader, all of them believing they were chosen, all of them believing the throne would one day be theirs, all of them discarded. And now you understand. You are not different. You are not special. You are not chosen. You are just another name in the endless cycle, another shadow waiting to be cast aside. The betrayal cuts deeper because it is not sudden. It is not shocking. It is inevitable. You realize you've always known, in the way he looked at you, not with pride, but with calculation, in the way he praised you, not with promise, but with mockery, in the way every lesson ended, not with truth, but with silence. You were never walking toward the throne. You were walking in a circle, chasing an illusion that was never real. Your chest tightens, your fists clench, your teeth grind. The fire of hatred surges, sharper than ever, roaring inside you until it feels like it might tear you apart. You want to strike him, you want to kill him, you want to end him. But even as the fire burns, you feel the leash tighten, because even your hatred belongs to him. Even your rebellion is part of his design. You are not defying him, you are entertaining him, and the thought sickens you. He steps back, his laughter curling through the chamber like smoke. "Do not despair, my apprentice. You have served your purpose well. You have endured, you have suffered, you have killed, and one day, when the time comes, you will die. And in your death you will prove what it means to be Sith." His voice echoes, heavy and final, like the closing of a tomb. You remain kneeling, trembling, hollow, and in that hollow space, the truth takes root. You were never meant to rule. You were never meant to rise. You were always meant to fall. But the fire does not die. It sharpens, it twists, it burns hotter than ever, because now you understand the final cruelty of the cycle. The betrayal is not the end. It is the beginning. Every apprentice is betrayed. Every apprentice is discarded. But some, just some, find a way to turn the betrayal back on the master. The fire inside you whispers that you could be one of them, that you could be the one to end the cycle, not fall to it, that you could be more than a placeholder, that you could be the final betrayal. Your breath steadies, your fists unclench, You bow your head, whispering the words he expects, the words that have become your cage. Yes, my master. His laughter deepens, pleased, certain of your submission. He turns, his cloak dragging across the stone, his shadow stretching long across the floor. He believes he has broken you. He believes you are his forever. He believes the size. Kali will turn again, as it always has. But deep inside, beneath the ashes of betrayal, the fire smolders, quiet, hidden, waiting. You will kneel, you will obey, you will play the role of placeholder, but only until the moment comes, only until the fire is ready to consume him. The torches flicker low, the chamber heavy with silence. His footsteps fade, his presence withdrawing into the shadows of the throne. You are left alone, broken but burning, hollow but alive. And in the silence, the fire whispers the one truth Sidious never expected you to learn. You may be his placeholder, but placeholders do not last forever. And as you rise, trembling but resolute, you hear the faintest sound in the distance. A voice carried through the Force, soft but defiant, rising from the stars. A voice not of Sidious, a voice of rebellion. And you realize with a sudden, chilling certainty, the true heir he waits for is coming. And when they arrive, you must choose. Remain his placeholder or become his downfall. Death does not come as you once imagined. It is not the flash of a saber through your chest, not the searing crackle of lightning tearing your body apart, not even the slow choke of betrayal tightening around your throat. No, your death comes quietly, piece by piece, not at your master's blade, but in the suffocating weight of servitude. You do not fall in a single moment. You unravel, you dissolve, until one day when you look into your own reflection, you realize the apprentice has already died, and only the shadow remains. It begins with your name, the one you were born with, the one whispered by your family before you left them behind. It lingers in the corners of your memory, faint and fragile, like a candle guttering in the wind. But no one speaks it anymore. Not Sidious, not the soldiers, not even you. That name belonged to someone who had dreams, who had hopes, who believed in light. That person is gone. That person was burned away the moment you swore yourself to the dark side. You tell yourself the name doesn't matter, that Sith shed their old skins to become something greater. But deep down, you know the truth. The name was you, and without it, you are hollow. Next, it is your face. You once knew its shape, its lines, its scars. But now, when you catch your reflection in the polished stone of the palace walls, in the gleam of your blade, in the cold glass of the viewport, you barely recognize it. The eyes are darker, hollowed by sleepless nights and endless rage. The skin is marked by burns and cuts, reminders of Sidious punishments. The expression is twisted, hardened, a mask you never meant to wear but cannot remove. You are not yourself anymore. You are what he made you. And the reflection is not your face, it is his victory. Then it is your thoughts. You once believed they were your own, sharp and defiant, hungry and ambitious. But now you hear his voice. See everywhere, in the silence of your chamber, in the roar of battle, in the stillness of meditation, his whispers burrow into you, shaping your decisions before you even know you've made them. You lash out in anger, and it is his lesson guiding your hand. You kneel in obedience, and it is his will bending your spine. You whisper of immortality, of destiny, of power, and they are his words, not yours. You tell yourself you are still free, that you still choose. But the truth is crueler. Every thought you have has already been planted by him. Every fire you feel has already been lit by his hand. You are not a mind. You are an echo. And finally, it is your soul. You feel it wither, day by day, like a dying star. You once had dreams, visions of ruling, of shaping the galaxy in your image. You once had anger, sharp and defiant, a blade you thought belonged to you. But now there is nothing left but obedience. You rise when he commands, you kneel when he demands, you kill when he orders, you survive because he allows it. And in that survival, piece by piece, you die, because a life without self is not a life at all. It is death stretched across years, death disguised as obedience, death carved into your very being. That's why it sucked to be a Sith apprentice under Sidious, because your master didn't need to kill you. He only needed to erase you, slowly, quietly, until the only thing left was his shadow, wearing your skin. You feel it most in the moments of silence, when the battles end, when the throne room grows quiet, when the corridors stretch long and empty. You sit alone, the walls pressing close, the hum of machinery filling the air, and you search for yourself. You search for a memory that still feels real, a voice, a face, a thought that is yours alone. But the search always ends in emptiness, in silence, in the suffocating weight of nothing, and the nothing terrifies you more than pain, more than punishment, more than death, because at least those things remind you that you exist. The nothing reminds you that you don't. Sometimes late at night you wonder if this was Sidious's plan all along, to kill you without killing you, to make you believe you are alive while slowly stripping everything that makes you who you are, to turn you into a hollow vessel, a puppet that moves, breathes, fights, and kills, but does not live. Perhaps this is the true curse of the Sith apprentice, not death at the Master's blade, but death by 1,000 silences. And yet, the faintest spark lingers. Deep inside, beneath the ashes, beneath the scars, beneath the suffocating nothing. A spark of defiance, a spark of memory, a spark of you. It is small, fragile, easy to ignore, but you feel it sometimes in the heat of battle, in the defiance of your thoughts, in the fire of your hatred. It whispers that you are still here, that you are not entirely gone, that you can still claw your way back if only you dare. But the spark is dangerous. If Sidious senses it, he will crush it, just as he has crushed every spark before. And so, you bury it deep, hide it beneath layers of obedience, mask it with silence. You let him believe you are broken, that the death of the self is complete. But inside, you cling to that spark with everything you have left, because it is the only piece of you that is still yours. The days blur into one another, kneeling, killing, obeying, each moment bleeding into the next until time itself feels meaningless. You are not living, you are enduring, you are surviving. And in that survival you feel yourself fading, piece by piece, until you wonder if one day even the spark will die, and then there will be nothing left at all. But tonight, something shifts. You kneel in the throne room, your head bowed, your body trembling from another mission, another slaughter, another atrocity. Sidious leans forward, his eyes burning, his smile sharp, and for the first time you hear something in his voice you did not expect. Not certainty, not mockery, not control. For the faintest instant you hear doubt. It is small, almost imperceptible, buried beneath layers of cruelty, but you hear it. And in that moment, the spark inside you flares. Because if he can doubt, even for a breath, then perhaps the death of the self is not complete. Perhaps the curse is not absolute. Perhaps you are not gone. Not yet. And as you lift your head, your eyes meeting his for the briefest instant, you feel the spark burn hotter. The death of the self may be suffocating, but it is not final. Not if you fight, not if you endure, not if you turn the spark into fire. And soon you will have to decide, will you let yourself fade into nothing, or will you rise from the ashes and burn the master who tried to erase you? Eternity does not roar, it whispers. It lingers in the shadows, patient, unyielding, cold. And when you look at him, at the withered figure cloaked in darkness upon his throne, you realize that is what Darth Sidious is. Not merely a man, not merely a master, but a shadow that refuses to fade. Masters have come, apprentices have fallen, empires have risen and crumbled, but he endures, always, smiling in the darkness. The torches flicker against the polished stone, their flames weak compared to the glow of his eyes. You kneel before him, your body trembling not from fear this time, but from the crushing weight of inevitability. You have seen apprentices rise, filled with fire, with dreams, with hunger. You have seen them fall, shattered by betrayal, consumed by the cycle. And still he remains, Sidious, untouched by time, Sidious, unbroken by defiance, Sidious, eternal. You study his face, the lines carved deep, the skin pale and rotting, the lips twisted into that cruel smile. By all measures he should be frail, brittle, one step away from the grave. But you know better. You feel the power radiating from him, thick as smoke, heavy as stone, suffocating in its intensity. It clings to him, not as a gift, but as a curse that he has embraced. He is not alive as other beings are. He is sustained by something darker, something deeper. He feeds on the misery he creates, on the fear he spreads, on the blood spilled in his name. Every apprentice who kneels before him, every soul broken in his service, every scream wrung from the galaxy itself, it all becomes fuel. And with that fuel, he endures. That's why it sucked to be a Sith apprentice under Sidious. Because no matter how much you sacrificed, no matter how deeply you drowned in the dark side, you would never surpass him. You would never escape him. He was not training you to rise. He was feeding on you to remain eternal. You be eager to see it clearly now. The rule of two is not balance. It is not strength. It is a machine, a cycle designed to sustain him. The master sharpens the apprentice hungers for the master's throne. Betrayal simmers, defiance grows, hatred burns, and in the end, when apprentice and master clash, it is Sidious who wins, not because he fights, but because he feeds on their hatred, on their ambition, on their despair. He lets the cycle turn, again and again, each apprentice convinced they are chosen, each one consumed in their time, and through their deaths, he grows stronger. Through their suffering, he becomes eternal. You wonder if this was his plan from the beginning. If even Plagueis, his master, was nothing more than a stepping stone. If immortality was never a secret technique or hidden ritual, but the simple act of enduring while others are broken. You remember the stories, the whispers of how Sidious killed Plagueis in his sleep, and you realize the truth. It was not ambition that drove him. It was hunger. Hunger to endure. Hunger to feed. Hunger to be the shadow that never fades. You feel it when you fight. In every battle, every mission, every slaughter, the fire in your veins, the rage in your chest, the hatred that sharpens your blade, it all flows back to him. Every drop of blood you spill, every scream you draw, every ghost you carry, it is all absorbed by his shadow. You thought the dark side was yours. You thought the hatred was yours. But no, it belongs to him. It always has. He is the dark side made flesh, the hunger given form. And as long as he endures, you will remain hollow. The galaxy itself bends beneath his shadow. You see it in the Senate, where fearful voices echo only his will. You see it in the stormtroopers, faceless, nameless, marching in his name. You see it in the rebels, who rise in defiance only to be crushed, their ashes feeding his fire. Every victory, every failure, every act of resistance, it all circles back to him. He is not merely the emperor of the empire. He is the Emperor Eternal, the one constant in a galaxy of change, and you are nothing but another servant destined to fade while he endures. You wonder what it would take to end him, not a blade, not lightning, not betrayal, something more, something beyond hatred, beyond hunger, beyond the cycle he has built. You search for it in your thoughts, in the faint spark you still hide within you, but every time you glimpse it, his shadow presses closer, smothering it, suffocating it, reminding you that he has already won, he has already endured, and he will endure long after you are gone. You think of the apprentices who came before you, Maul, Tyrannus, Vader. Each one thought they would inherit the galaxy, each one thought they would escape the cycle, and each one ended the same way, broken, betrayed, consumed. Their deaths did not weaken Sidious, they strengthened him. Their screams did not mark his downfall, they became his laughter. Their hatred did not destroy him, it sustained him. And now, you see your own reflection in their ashes, you see your future in their failures. But still, the spark lingers. Still you wonder if eternity can be broken. Still you wonder if even shadows can be burned away by light. It is a fragile hope, dangerous and treacherous, but it is all you have, because if he truly is eternal, then you are already dead. The galaxy is already dead. Everything is already lost. The chamber grows colder. Sidious leans back in his throne, his eyes burning, his smile cruel. He watches you, not as a master watches an apprentice, but as a predator watches prey. He knows your thoughts. He knows your doubts. He knows the spark that still lingers inside you. And yet, he does not crush it. He does not extinguish it. He lets it burn, faint and fragile, because even that spark belongs to him. Even your defiance feeds him. Even your rebellion becomes part of his eternity. And that is the final cruelty. Sidious does not just endure. He endures because of you. He endures because of your suffering, your hatred, your despair. He endures because you let him. But tonight, as you kneel in the flickering light of the throne room, something shifts. The air trembles. The shadows stir, and for the first time, you feel something beyond his presence, a ripple in the force, distant, faint, but real, a spark not of hatred, not of hunger, not of him, something else, something he cannot control, something he cannot endure forever. Your breath catches, your chest tightens, you lift your head, your eyes meeting his. He smiles, certain, eternal, but behind his smile you see it, a flicker of doubt, small, fleeting, but there. And in that flicker you realize the truth. The Emperor may believe himself eternal, but eternity is fragile, and one day something, or someone, will shatter it. The only question is whether you will be the one to strike, or just another shadow feeding his endless reign. Freedom, that was the word that brought you here. The promise whispered in shadows, the lure that drew you into the dark side's embrace. No more chains, no more rules, no more Jedi councils or hollow codes, only power, only choice, only freedom. And yet, as you kneel in the flickering light of the throne room, as his shadow stretches long across the stone, you feel the truth crash into you like a blade to the chest. The Sith promise freedom, but under Sidious all you find are chains. It is the cruelest irony. You traded one prison for another. You fled the dogma of the Jedi, their endless rules, their suffocating restraint. You believed the Sith offered liberation, a chance to live without shackles, to rise above the weak, to carve your own destiny. But here, kneeling before him, you realize you have only traded masters, and this one does not bind you with laws. He binds you with yourself, with your hunger, with your hatred, with the fire he feeds until it consumes you. You close your eyes and the ghosts rise again. The faces of the innocents you slaughtered, the screams that cling to your skin, the smell of fire that never leaves your lungs. You thought their deaths proved your freedom, that killing without hesitation meant you had escaped the chains of morality, but now you see the truth. Those deaths were not your choice. They were his command. You were not free when you struck them down. You were a weapon in his hand, an extension of his will, a chain he used to bind himself tighter to eternity. That's why it sucked to be a Sith apprentice under Sidious, because even when you thought you were free, even when you thought you were powerful, you were only kneeling in deeper chains. Chains forged from your own ambition. Chains that wrapped tighter every time you believed you were escaping. You remember the first time he spoke of freedom. His voice was soft, almost key. And as he told you the Sith path was about breaking bonds, about rejecting masters, about seizing destiny. And you believed him. How could you not? You were young, hungry, desperate to escape the weight of Jedi restraint. You thought freedom was fire, and he lit the match. But fire is not freedom. Fire is just another chain. It devours until nothing remains, and now you feel its heat hollowing you out, leaving you nothing but ash. The bitter truth gnaws at you. The Jedi were prisoners of rules. The Sith are prisoners of chains unseen. The Jedi bound themselves to discipline, to order, to restraint. The Sith bind themselves to hatred, to hunger, to a master who feeds on their despair. Neither path offers freedom. Neither path offers peace. Both are prisons, painted in different colors. And you, caught between them, are left to choke in the ashes of promises that were never real. You rise from your knees, your body trembling, your eyes locked on the figure slouched in his throne. Sidious smiles, his lips curling, his eyes glowing with that endless hunger. He knows you see the truth now. He knows the chains are clear, and he does not fear it, because seeing the chains does not free you. It binds you tighter. Once you realize there is no escape, you stop fighting, you stop dreaming, you stop hoping, you accept the leash, and that is when the prison is strongest. But still, a spark lingers, faint, fragile, dangerous. You feel it deep inside, beneath the weight of hunger, beneath the scars of obedience, beneath the ashes of who you once were. It whispers that freedom might still be possible, not in the Jedi, not in the Sith, but in something else, something beyond both orders, something beyond Sidious. The spark frightens you, it tempts you, it burns quietly, hidden beneath the fire he thinks he controls. You cling to it, not because you believe in it, but because it is all you have left. The torches flicker low, the air heavy, the shadows deep. Sidious leans forward, his voice soft but cutting, his words final. You are mine. You always were, and you always will be. The sentence echoes through the chamber, through your chest, through the marrow of your bones. It is not a threat. It is not even a promise. It is truth, the bitter truth. You are his. You were never free. You were never destined to be, and yet his words do not kill the spark. They feed it. Because if he believes you are his forever, if he believes the chains can never be broken, if he believes the cycle will turn without end, then maybe, just maybe, there is still a way to defy him. Not as Jedi, not as Sith, not as master or apprentice, but as something else. Something neither order could chain. The thought is reckless, dangerous, fragile as glass, but it burns in your chest, steady as a heartbeat. You bow your head, hiding your eyes, hiding the spark. You whisper the words he expects. Yes, my master. And he smiles, certain of his eternal victory, certain that the chains will never break, certain that you are his forever. But inside, beneath the ashes, beneath the scars, beneath the endless chains, the spark waits, quiet, patient, growing, because eternity is not unbreakable. Chains can be shattered, shadows can be burned, and even emperors can fall. That is the bitter truth. The Sith promised freedom, but they gave you chains. Sidious promised power, but he gave you emptiness. You thought you would rise, but you only fell. And yet, beneath it all, you realize something he never wanted you to learn. Chains are only as strong as the will that accepts them, and your will is not yet broken. The torches sputter. The chamber falls silent. Sidious leans back into the darkness, smiling as though he has already won. But in the silence, you hear something else. A voice carried through the Force, faint but clear, rising not from him, but from beyond. A voice of defiance, a voice of rebellion, a voice that says the chains will not last forever. Your breath steadies, your fists clench, the spark inside you flares, and for the first time you allow yourself to imagine the unthinkable, not just surviving him, not just serving him, not just enduring him, but ending him. And as the chamber doors hiss open, the light of a distant dawn spilling through the shadows, you realize the story is not finished. Sidious may believe himself eternal, but eternity can be broken. And one day, perhaps not today, perhaps not tomorrow, but one day, the chains will shatter. And when they do, the Emperor will fall.